The mate bond is sacred, it's destiny, it's everything. That's what Alara's grandmother whispered to her on her 18th birthday, pressing a worn silver pendant into her palm. But when Alara discovered her fated mate was Kieran Blackwood, the most powerful alpha in the Northern Territories, she would learn that destiny meant nothing to a man who had already chosen someone else. For 5 years, she lived as the invisible mate, the unwanted bond, the woman who existed in the shadows of his pack house while he built a life with another. But fate has a cruel sense of timing, and the night everything changed, it wouldn't be Alara, on her knees begging. It would be him. Chapter 1. The Invisible Mate. The first time Alara felt the mate bond snap into place, she was 23 years old and carrying a tray of coffee cups through the marble corridors of the Blackwood estate. It hit her like lightning, a searing, electric pull that made her stumble, nearly dropping the entire tray. Her wolf surged forward in her chest, howling with recognition, with desperate need. Mate. 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 And there he was. Kieran Blackwood stood at the end of the hallway, his hand resting possessively on the small of Isabel Crane's back. He was everything the stories promised: tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair that fell just past his collar and eyes like molten amber. Power radiated from him in waves that made lesser wolves drop their gazes. He was an alpha in every sense of the word. Isabel laughed at something he said, tilting her perfect face up toward his. She was beautiful in that effortless way that came from generations of careful breeding, blonde, elegant, with the kind of bone structure that belonged on magazine covers. The daughter of the Western Alpha. She'd been groomed since childhood to stand beside a man like Kieran. Alara's wolf whimpered. Kieran's head turned. Their eyes met across the distance. She watched his body go rigid, watched recognition flash across his face, brief, unmistakable. The bond pulled taut between them, a golden thread that only they could feel. Then he looked away. He looked away and pressed a kiss to Isabel's temple, steering her toward the conference room without a single glance back. Alara stood frozen in the hallway, the coffee tray trembling in her hands, as her entire world cracked down the middle. That was 5 years ago. 5 years of living in the same pack house, breathing the same air, feeling the bond pulse with every heartbeat while he pretended she didn't exist. Alara had learned to make herself small, invisible. She worked in the kitchens, kept her head down, and spoke only when spoken to. The other Omegas pitied her at first. Everyone knew what it meant when an alpha rejected the bond without formally severing it. It was a special kind of cruelty, keeping the connection alive but unfulfilled, a constant ache that never dulled. But pity turned to awkwardness, and awkwardness faded to indifference. After 5 years, she was simply part of the furniture, the girl who brought fresh linens, who refilled water pitchers during pack meetings, who existed in the margins of other people's lives. Alara, table 7 needs clearing. She jerked back to the present. Margaret, the head housekeeper, was watching her with that particular expression of long-suffering patience she'd perfected over the decades. Sorry, Alara murmured, grabbing a bin and heading into the dining hall. It was pack gathering night, the monthly dinner, where Blackwood's sprawling pack came together to reinforce bonds and settle disputes. The great hall was packed with wolves, their voices rising in laughter and argument. The smell of roasted meat and wine hung thick in the air. Kieran sat at the head table, Isabel beside him. They weren't officially mated. That was the thing that made it all so much worse. 5 years, and he still hadn't claimed her, hadn't completed the marking ceremony that would bind them forever. Everyone assumed he was waiting for some political reason, the right alliance, the perfect moment to unite the Northern and Western Territories. No one knew about Alara, about the bond he was denying. She moved through the tables like a ghost, collecting empty plates and glasses. Her wolf had gone quiet over the years, retreating into a dark corner of her mind where the constant rejection couldn't reach. Alara had learned not to look at him, not to let her eyes linger on the way his hands moved, the way he threw his head back when he laughed. Poor thing. The whisper came from a table near the back. 2 young wolves, probably visiting from one of the satellite packs. What? Her companion asked. That Omega. Alara. You don't know? The first wolf leaned in conspiratorially. She's his mate. His actual, fated mate. Alara's hands stilled on a water pitcher. No way. But he's with Isabel. Exactly. He rejected the bond. Well, not officially. He just ignores her. Has for years. Can you imagine? Feeling that pull every single day and having him look right through you? That's fucked up. That's politics. Isabel's father controls 3 territories. Alara's nobody. An orphan. She doesn't even know what pack her parents came from. Alara's fingers tightened on the pitcher until her knuckles went white. She forced herself to keep moving, to finish her rounds, to not let them see how their words landed like knives. She was almost to the kitchen when it happened. A crash. Shouting. The distinctive sound of a challenge being issued. Alara turned to see 2 wolves facing off in the center of the hall, both young, both drunk, both puffed up with territorial aggression. The larger one shoved the smaller, sending him stumbling back into a table. Enough. Kieran's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. He rose from his seat, and the entire hall went silent. When an alpha commanded, wolves listened. It was written into their bones. The 2 challengers dropped their eyes immediately, necks baring in submission. You want to fight? Kieran's voice was soft. Dangerous. Take it outside. Bleed on your own time. Yes, Alpha, they mumbled in unison, scrambling for the door. Kieran watched them go, his expression carved from stone. Then his gaze swept the room, landing on each face, reminding them all exactly who held power here. His eyes passed over Alara, through her, like she was nothing. The bond flared in her chest, a sharp, desperate pull that made her breath catch. Her wolf stirred, whimpering, reaching for him across the distance. But he was already turning back to Isabel, already smiling at something she said, already forgetting Alara existed. Something inside her chest cracked a little deeper. She was washing dishes in the industrial sink when Margaret found her. You all right, girl? Alara didn't look up. Fine. You've been scrubbing that pot for 10 minutes. It's clean. Her hands stilled. She set the pot down carefully, watching soap bubbles slide down her wrists. I heard the Riverside pack is looking for kitchen staff, Margaret said quietly. Good pay. Clean housing. It's 3 territories away. 3 territories away. Far enough that the bond might finally fade to something bearable. Are you firing me? Lord, no. But I've got eyes, Alara. And I've watched you fade away for 5 years. Margaret's weathered hand settled on her shoulder. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is leave. Alara closed her eyes. The bond pulsed a steady, aching rhythm that matched her heartbeat. Even now, she could feel him in the packhouse above her, could sense his presence like a compass always pointing north. I'll think about it, she whispered, but they both knew she wouldn't. Because despite everything, despite 5 years of rejection and invisibility and slowly dying inside, some pathetic part of her still hoped, still believed that one day, he might look at her and actually see. Chapter 2. The Breaking Point. The nightmare always started the same way. Alara was running through a forest, her wolf form sleek and silver in the moonlight. She could feel Kieran running beside her, not see him, but feel him, the bond singing between them like a perfectly tuned instrument. Joy flooded through her, pure and uncomplicated. This was what it was supposed to be like. This was what the mate bond promised. Then she'd look over, and he'd be gone. She'd skid to a stop, paws digging into the earth, and turn to find him standing with Isabel. They'd be human again, and he'd be marking her, teeth sinking into the junction of her neck and shoulder, claiming her in the way that could never be undone. And Alara would feel it, would feel the bond between them severing, snapping like a rope pulled too tight, would feel herself disappearing, becoming nothing, becoming less than nothing. She jerked awake, gasping. Her small room in the servants' quarters was dark, the only light coming from the sliver of moon through her window. Sweat plastered her hair to her forehead, her heart hammered against her ribs. 3 a.m, the same time she woke every night. Alara pressed her palms against her eyes until stars burst behind her lids. 5 years of this. 5 years of nightmares, and longing, and slow suffocation. Margaret was right. She needed to leave. Needed to get far enough away that the bond might finally weaken, might finally let her breathe. She was so tired of hoping. A sound echoed through the pack house, raised voices, angry and sharp. Ilara's wolf perked up, instantly alert. Arguments weren't unusual, but something about these voices made her skin prickle. She shouldn't care, should roll over and go back to sleep. But her feet were already carrying her to the door, down the narrow servant's staircase, toward the source of the commotion. The voices were coming from Kieran's study. "Can't keep putting this off." That was Isabel, her usually melodious voice shrill with frustration. "I said we'll discuss it later." Kieran's tone was flat. Final. "Later? It's been 5 years, Kieran. 5 years of later. My father is losing patience. The Western packs are losing patience. When are you going to stop making excuses and actually claim me?" Ilara froze in the hallway, her hand pressed against the wall. She should leave, should not be listening to this. She didn't move. "The timing isn't right," Kieran said. "The timing will never be right. What are you waiting for? Some sign from the moon goddess herself?" Isabel's voice cracked. "Do you know what they're saying about me? That I'm not good enough, that there's something wrong with me, that you're keeping me around until something better comes along. That's not. Then prove it. Mark me, claim me, make me your Luna and end this humiliation." Silence stretched between them. Ilara's heart thundered so loud, she was certain they could hear it through the door. "I need more time," Kieran finally said. The sound Isabel made was half laugh, half sob. "You don't want me. I've known that for years, but you won't let me go either. What are you so afraid of?" "Isabel, is there someone else?" The question hung in the air like a blade. Ilara stopped breathing. "No," Kieran said. The lie was smooth, practiced. "There's no one else." Something inside Ilara's chest turned to ice. "Then what is it?" Isabel's voice had gone quiet, broken. "What's wrong with me?" "Nothing's wrong with you." "Then why won't you love me?" The vulnerability in those words made Ilara's throat tight. Because she understood. God, did she understand what it felt like to love someone who wouldn't love you back? "I'm trying," Kieran said, and for the first time he sounded tired. "I'm trying, Isabel. Try harder." Footsteps approached the door. Ilara barely had time to duck into a side corridor before Isabel emerged, her perfect face blotchy with tears. She stormed past without seeing Ilara, heading toward the guest wing where she kept her rooms. Ilara pressed her back against the wall, her wolf churning with conflicting emotions. She should feel vindicated, should feel some bitter satisfaction that Kieran was miserable too. Instead, she just felt hollow. "I know you're there." The words froze her blood. Kieran stood in the doorway of his study, his amber eyes fixed on the shadows where she hid. "I can feel you," he said quietly. "I can always feel you." Ilara stepped into the light. 5 years of practiced invisibility warred with the sudden, desperate need to be seen. "I didn't mean to eavesdrop," she said. Her voice came out steadier than she expected. "I heard shouting." "So you came to investigate?" His expression was unreadable. "That's not very smart, little Omega." The casual dismissal, the way he reduced her to her rank, made something snap inside her chest. "Don't," she said. His eyebrows rose. "Excuse me? Don't call me that. Don't talk to me like I'm nothing." Her hands clenched at her sides. "You don't get to pretend I don't exist for 5 years and then mock me when we're alone." Kieran went very still. When he spoke, his voice was soft, dangerous, careful. "Or what? You'll ignore me harder?" The words were coming faster now, 5 years of silence breaking like a dam. "You'll look through me more thoroughly? You'll pretend even more convincingly that you don't feel this bond eating us both alive?" "Stop." "Why? Because it's inconvenient? Because it ruins the illusion you've built." Ilara took a step closer, her wolf rising to the surface, making her eyes flash silver. "I heard what she asked you. If there's someone else, and you lied." "Ilara, you lied to her face and called me no one." The words hung between them, raw and bleeding. Kieran's jaw clenched. "What do you want me to say?" "I want you to tell the truth. Her voice broke. I want you to admit that you feel this, that it's killing you too, that I'm not crazy for. She cut herself off, wrapping her arms around her middle. For what? He took a step toward her, and the bond flared so bright it hurt. For waiting? For hoping I'd suddenly decide you were worth the political nightmare? The cruelty in his words stole her breath. You're an orphan Omega with no pack, no lineage, no alliances to offer. Kieran continued, his voice like ice. Isabel is the daughter of the Western Alpha. Her father controls 3 territories. Claiming her would unite half the continent under Blackwood rule. And claiming me would give you nothing, Alara whispered. Exactly. The single word cut deeper than anything else he could have said, because it wasn't angry. It was simply true, a statement of fact. Then reject me. The words tumbled out before she could stop them. Officially, sever the bond. Let me go. Something flickered in his eyes, there and gone too fast to name. No. Why not? Desperation crept into her voice. If I'm worthless, if I'm nothing, then why keep me tied to you? Because, he stopped. His hands clenched at his sides. It's complicated. It's cruel. Tears burned behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. You're keeping me in this limbo where I can't move on, but I can't have you either. Do you have any idea what that feels like? Yes. The admission came out harsh. I know exactly what it feels like. They stared at each other across the study, the bond thrumming between them like a live wire. Alara could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his wolf pushed against his control. He wasn't unaffected. That almost made it worse. Then end it, she whispered. Please, if you're going to choose her, and we both know you are, then at least have the mercy to let me go. Kieran's expression hardened. I can't. Can't or won't. Both. He turned away from her, gripping the edge of his desk. The bond, severing it, would weaken us both. Leave us vulnerable. I can't afford that weakness. Understanding crashed over her like a wave. So you're keeping me as a backup plan. Insurance. That's not. That's exactly what this is. Anger flooded through her, hot and bright. You won't claim me because I'm not valuable enough. But you won't release me because I might be useful someday. I'm a strategic resource. That's all I've ever been to you. Alara. Go to hell, Alpha. She turned to leave, but his hand shot out, catching her wrist. The contact sent electricity racing up her arm, the bond singing with painful intensity. Don't walk away from me, he growled. She looked at his hand on her wrist, then up, at his face. Why? What are you going to do? Acknowledge my existence for 5 whole minutes before going back to Isabel. You don't understand the position I'm in. I understand perfectly. She yanked her arm free, the loss of contact physically painful. You're an alpha who wants everything. Power, alliances, and a mate bond you can't control. But you can't have it all, Kieran. Eventually you'll have to choose. And you know what I'll choose. It wasn't a question. It was a knife, clean and quick. Yes, she said softly. I do. She made it 3 steps before his voice stopped her. I dream about you. The words were so quiet she almost didn't hear them. Alara froze, her hand on the doorframe. Every night, Kieran continued, his voice rough. I dream about running with you, hunting with you. I dream about, he cut himself off. And then I wake up, and I remember why I can't. Slowly she turned to face him. He wasn't looking at her. His gaze was fixed on the floor, his shoulders rigid with tension. My father built this pack from nothing, he said. When he died, he made me promise I'd make it stronger, bigger, that I'd unite the Northern Territories and create something that could last centuries. His hands clenched. Isabel is the key to that, her father, her alliances, her bloodline. With her as Luna, I can fulfill that promise. And with me? Alara asked. With you? I get a bond I didn't ask for, and a weakness my enemies will exploit. The honesty was almost kind. Almost. Then we both know what you have to do, Alara said. She was proud of how steady her voice sounded. How calm. Claim her. Mark her. Make her your Luna, and officially reject me. Rip the band-aid off, instead of letting me bleed out slowly. I told you. I can't sever the bond. It's too dangerous. For you. It's too dangerous for you. Bitterness crept into her tone. But keeping me in this hell forever? That's just fine. Elara. I'm done, Kieran. She met his eyes, let him see every ounce of pain she'd hidden for 5 years. I'm leaving Blackwood territory. I'm going to find some corner of the world where I can't feel you anymore, and I'm going to try to build a life that doesn't revolve around a man who can't even look at me. Panic flashed across his face, brief but unmistakable. You can't leave. Watch me. As your alpha, I'm ordering you to stay. The command rolled over her, pressing down on her wolf, demanding submission. She felt her knees start to buckle, felt her wolf whimper and lower its head. But something else rose up inside her, something that had been building for 5 years of rejection and invisibility, and slowly dying inside, something that snapped the alpha command like a twig. No. Kieran's eyes widened in shock. No Omega should be able to resist an alpha's direct order. It was biologically impossible. Unless the bond made them equal. I said no, Elara repeated, her voice shaking but firm. You don't get to order me around. You don't get to keep me trapped here for your convenience. I'm leaving, and you can't stop me. Elara, wait. But she was already gone, racing up the servants' stairs, her heart pounding and tears finally spilling down her cheeks. Behind her, she felt the bond stretch and strain, felt Kieran's shock and something else, something that might have been fear. Good. Let him be afraid. Let him feel a fraction of what she'd felt every day for 5 years. By tomorrow night, she'd be gone, and Kieran Blackwood could build his empire with someone who actually wanted to be there. Chapter 3. The Last Night. Elara threw clothes into her threadbare backpack with shaking hands. 2 shirts, 1 pair of jeans, the worn jacket Margaret had given her last winter. Everything she owned fit into a single bag. And wasn't that pathetic? 5 years in this pack house and she'd leave with less than she'd arrived with. Her silver pendant, her grandmother's pendant, hung around her neck. She touched it briefly, drawing strength from the cool metal. You'll know when it's time to go, her grandmother had whispered on her deathbed. Your wolf will tell you. And when she does, don't look back. Her wolf was screaming at her now. Screaming to run, to flee, to get as far from this place as possible before the bond crushed what was left of her soul. A soft knock at her door made her freeze. It's me, Margaret's voice called quietly. Elara opened the door. The older woman's eyes swept over the half-packed bag, and her expression softened with understanding. So you're really doing it. I have to. Elara's voice cracked. I can't keep doing this, Margaret. I know, sweetheart. Margaret pulled her into a brief, fierce hug. I know. She pressed something into Elara's palm. A folded wad of bills. It's not much, but it'll get you somewhere safe. Margaret, I can't. Yes, you can. Consider it back pay for 5 years of watching you break your own heart. Margaret cupped her face. There's a bus that leaves at dawn from the edge of territory, goes to Riverside first, then further south. Get on it. Don't tell anyone where you're going. Just disappear. He'll try to stop me. Then you run faster. Margaret's eyes were fierce. You hear me, girl? You run, and you don't look back. Not for him, not for anyone. Elara nodded, not trusting her voice. Good. Margaret kissed her forehead. Now get some rest. You've got a long journey ahead. After she left, Elara sat on her narrow bed and stared at the moon through her window. The bond pulsed in her chest, stronger than usual, almost frantic. She could feel Kieran somewhere in the pack house, could sense his restlessness, his agitation. He knew. Somehow, he knew she was planning to leave. Good, she thought viciously. Let him panic. But her wolf whimpered, torn between the need to flee and the terrible aching desire to go to him. to press against his chest and breathe in his scent and pretend, just for a moment, that she was wanted. "Stop it," she whispered to herself. "Stop hoping. Stop waiting. He's made his choice." She lay down fully clothed, her backpack within reach, and tried to sleep. But every time she closed her eyes, she saw Kieran's face, heard his voice. "I dream about you." Why did he have to say that? Why give her that tiny scrap of hope when he'd already made it clear she would never be enough? The hours crawled past. Midnight. 1, 2. At 3 that cursed hour, something changed. The bond flared so bright it stole her breath. Alara sat up, gasping, clutching her chest as sensation flooded through her. Not pain. Something else. Something that felt like panic. Kieran's panic. She was on her feet before she could think, her wolf surging forward, demanding she find him, protect him, help him. "No," she said aloud. "No, I'm not doing this. He doesn't get to." The bond pulsed again, sharp and desperate, and underneath it she felt something she'd never felt before, through their connection. Fear. Kieran Blackwood didn't fear anything. Ilara's feet carried her into the hallway before her brain could catch up. She moved through the sleeping pack house like a ghost, following the golden thread of the bond to wherever he was. Not his study, not his bedroom. The training grounds. She found him in the center of the outdoor ring, barefoot and shirtless, despite the cold, moving through combat forms with vicious precision. Each punch, each kick was delivered with barely controlled fury. Sweat gleamed on his skin. His eyes glowed amber in the darkness, his wolf too close to the surface. Ilara stopped at the edge of the ring, hidden in shadow. She should leave, should turn around and go back to her room, and finish packing. But she couldn't move. "I know you're there." His voice was rough, breathless. He didn't stop moving. "I felt you coming. You were afraid." The words escaped before she could stop them. "I felt it through the bond." Kieran's fist slammed into a training dummy hard enough to crack the wood. "You're leaving." It wasn't a question. "Yes. Tomorrow? At dawn." His movements stilled. Slowly, he turned to face her, his chest heaving. In the moonlight, he looked wild, dangerous, like the predator he was. "Where will you go? Does it matter?" "Yes." He took a step toward her. "It matters." "Why?" Anger flared in her chest. "So you can track me down when you need your insurance bond? So you can drag me back when it's convenient? So I know you're safe." Another step. "So I know some rogue pack hasn't picked you off. So I know." He stopped, jaw clenching. "Just tell me where you're going." "No." The word hung between them. Kieran's eyes flashed. "You don't get to know," she said, her voice shaking. "You don't get to keep tabs on me while you build your perfect life with Isabel. I'm leaving, Kieran. I'm cutting every thread that ties me to this place, and that includes you. The bond doesn't work like that. You can't just run away and make it disappear." "No. But I can get far enough away that it fades, that I can't feel you every second of every day. That maybe I can find some peace." "Peace." He laughed, the sound bitter. "You think you'll find peace? I've spent 5 years trying to ignore this bond, Alara. 5 years of distance and denial, and forcing myself to want someone else. And you know what? It doesn't work. It doesn't fade. It just hurts." "Then reject me." The words tore out of her. "Stop being a coward, and officially sever it." "I can't." "Because you're selfish." Tears streamed down her face now. "Because you want to keep your mate bond insurance while you play house with the politically convenient choice. Because rejecting you would kill me." The confession exploded into the night, raw and ragged. Kieran stood in the center of the ring, his hands clenched, his whole body trembling. "You think I haven't tried?" His voice cracked. "You think I haven't stood in front of the Pack Council a dozen times, ready to formally reject the bond, to do the ritual that would set us both free?" Alara's breath caught. "I can't do it," he continued, quieter now. "Every time I try to speak the words, my wolf takes control, refuses. And the one time I pushed through, forced the words out anyway. He looked away. I collapsed. My heart stopped. They had to call the pack healer to restart it. The world tilted. What? True mate bonds can't be rejected, Kieran said flatly. Not without killing one or both parties. Didn't you know? Didn't your grandmother tell you? She died before. Ilara's legs felt weak. Before she could explain everything. We're trapped. The words were hollow. You and me, bound together whether we want to be or not. And the worst part, his laugh was broken. I don't even know what I want anymore. Ilara stared at him, her mind reeling. You're lying. You have to be lying. There are stories of rejected bonds, chosen bonds, attracted bonds, bonds that form from proximity and compatibility. Kieran finally met her eyes. Not true mate bonds, not ones written in the stars. Those are permanent. The moon goddess doesn't make mistakes. Then why? Her voice broke. Why did you push me away? Why pretend I don't exist if you can't ever be free of me? Because I'm an idiot. He crossed the distance between them in 3 strides. Because I thought I could fight destiny with duty. Because my father spent my whole life teaching me that feelings don't matter, only power does. And when I met you? He stopped, close enough now that she could feel the heat radiating from his skin. You scared me. I scared you? You made me want things I couldn't afford to want. Made me feel things that had no place in an alpha's life. You were this weakness I couldn't control. His hand lifted, hovering near her face, but not quite touching. So I tried to ignore you, tried to bury what I felt under duty and obligation in political marriages that made sense on paper. And Isabel. Pain flashed across his features. I tried to love her. God. I tried. She's everything I should want. Everything that makes sense. But every time I look at her, all I feel is empty. You told her you were trying to love her, Ilara whispered. I heard you, tonight. I know. You were standing in the hallway, and I could feel your heart breaking through the bond. His hand finally made contact, his thumb brushing away a tear on her cheek. I've felt every moment of pain I've caused you, every rejection, every time I looked through you like you were nothing. I felt it all, Ilara, and I hated myself for it. Then why didn't you stop? The question came out broken. If you felt what it was doing to me, why keep hurting me? Because stopping would mean admitting I was wrong, would mean dismantling everything I'd built with Isabel, would mean telling her father, one of the most powerful alphas on the continent, that I was breaking our alliance because of a mate bond with an omega nobody. His voice dropped. I was a coward. Am a coward. Ilara pulled away from his touch, wrapping her arms around herself. So what now? You confess all this the night before I leave? You tell me you've been suffering too, like that somehow makes it better. No, it doesn't make it better. Kieran's hands fell to his sides. Nothing makes it better. He exhaled slowly. I couldn't let you leave thinking you meant nothing to me. But I'm still leaving. I know. And you're still going to mark Isabel. His jaw clenched. I don't know. Yes, you do. Ilara's laugh was bitter. You know exactly what you're going to do. You're going to let me go because it's easier than fighting for something that doesn't make political sense. And in a few months, maybe a year, you'll finally mark Isabel and unite your territories and build your empire. And you'll convince yourself that the constant ache in your chest is just the price of power. Ilara. I'm done, Kieran. She stepped back, putting distance between them. I'm done waiting for you to choose me. Done hoping that maybe this time you'll look at me and decide I'm worth the complications. I deserve better than being someone's guilty secret. You do, he said quietly. You deserve so much better than what I've given you. The agreement hurt worse than an argument would have. Goodbye, Kieran. She turned to leave, her vision blurred with tears. Wait. His voice stopped her at the edge of the ring. Just one thing, please. Against her better judgment, she looked back. He stood in the moonlight, looking more vulnerable than she'd ever seen him, an alpha brought low by his own choices. When you leave, he said softly. "And you start building that new life somewhere far from here. If you ever need anything, ever, you call me, and I'll come. No questions, no obligations. Just," his voice cracked, "just let me help you. Even if it's the only thing you ever let me do." The offer was almost kind, almost enough, but not enough to make her stay. "Goodbye, Kieran," she repeated. This time when she walked away, he didn't stop her. Ilara made it back to her room before the sobs came. Great heaving gasps that shook her whole body. She collapsed onto her bed, pressing her face into her pillow to muffle the sound. He'd felt it all, every moment of pain, and he'd done it anyway. That somehow made it worse. Her wolf howled inside her mind, a long, mournful sound that echoed with loss. The bond thrummed in her chest, pulled taut and aching. But underneath the pain, something else stirred, something that felt almost like relief. Because now she knew, he couldn't reject her, but he wouldn't choose her either. The uncertainty was over. The hoping was done. She could finally let go. Ilara sat up, wiping her face, and zipped her backpack closed. 3 hours until dawn. 3 hours until the bus that would carry her away from Blackwood territory, and Kieran's amber eyes, and 5 years of breaking her own heart. She lay back down, fully clothed, and watched the moon arc across the sky. In the distance, she felt Kieran return to the pack house, felt him pause outside her door, standing there for long minutes, his hand probably pressed against the wood. Then he moved on, and the bond settled into its familiar ache. Goodbye, she thought, knowing somehow that he could feel it through their connection. I hope you get everything you wanted. Even if what he wanted would never be her. When the first gray light of dawn touched her window, Ilara shouldered her backpack, took one last look at the room that had been her cage for 5 years, and walked out without looking back. Margaret was waiting at the kitchen door with a paper bag. "Sandwiches," she said gruffly. "For the road." "Thank you." Ilara hugged her fiercely. "For everything. You write me when you get settled, you hear? Just so I know you're alive." "I will." "And Ilara?" Margaret's eyes were wet. "You're worth more than he could see. Don't you ever forget that?" Ilara nodded, not trusting her voice, and slipped out into the dawn. The pack house was silent behind her. The bond pulled, urging her to turn back, to run to Kieran one last time. She kept walking. The edge of Blackwood territory was 2 miles away. The bus stop was just beyond it. Freedom was so close she could taste it. She was halfway there when she felt it. A sudden spike of terror through the bond. Not hers. Kieran's. Ilara stumbled, gasping, as images flooded through their connection. Blood, silver, rogues, an ambush at the northern border. No, she thought desperately. No, no, no. The bond snapped taut, as Kieran's pain seared through her. He was hurt, badly hurt, and she was walking away. Ilara stood frozen at the crossroads, her backpack heavy on her shoulders, her bus ticket crumpled in her hand. Freedom lay ahead. The mate who'd rejected her was bleeding behind her. Her wolf made the decision before her human mind could catch up. She was already running back, her backpack abandoned on the ground, when the first howl of distress echoed across Blackwood territory. She was coming, whether he deserved it or not. She was coming. Chapter 4, Blood and Silver. The scent of blood hit Ilara, before she reached the northern border, thick, coppery and wrong. Mixed with it was the acrid stench of silver and the musky odor of rogues. Her wolf pushed her faster, her human form racing through the forest with preternatural speed. The bond blazed in her chest like a beacon, pulling her toward Kieran with desperate intensity. Please, she thought frantically. Please be alive. Please be okay. She burst into a clearing and froze. Bodies littered the ground. At least a dozen rogues, their twisted forms already beginning to decompose in the dawn light. Blackwood warriors stood among them, bloodied but alive, and in the center of it all, Kieran. He was on his knees, one hand pressed against his side, where blood seeped between his fingers. Silver chains wrapped around his other arm. the metal burning into his skin, releasing smoke where it touched. His face was gray with pain. Alpha, one of the warriors, a young male named Devon, knelt beside him. "We need to get you to the healer. The silver's spreading." "Get it off him," Alara heard herself say. Every head turned toward her. She must have looked wild, barefoot, her sleep clothes torn from running through the forest, her eyes glowing silver with her wolf's fear. "Alara?" Devon's confusion was evident. "What are you?" "The silver. Get it off him. Now." She pushed past the warriors, falling to her knees beside Kieran. His amber eyes locked on hers, wide with shock. "You came back. Don't talk." Her hands hovered over the chains, trembling. Silver burned werewolves on contact. She couldn't touch it directly without gloves. "Devon, I need." "Here." Another warrior pressed thick leather gloves into her hands. Alara pulled them on, and carefully, gently, began unwinding the chains from Kieran's arm. Each link she removed revealed burned, blistered skin beneath. The scent of his pain made her wolf whimper. "You were leaving," Kieran said, his voice rough. "I felt you at the border. You were almost free." "Shut up." She threw the chains aside and examined his wounds. The gash in his side was deep, still bleeding. The silver burns on his arm were worse. The metal had been on him long enough to seep into his bloodstream. "How long ago did this happen?" 20 minutes, Devon answered. "The rogues ambushed us during the border patrol. There were too many. They were organized, had silver weapons, silver nets. Someone planned this. They were after the Alpha specifically," another warrior added grimly, "kept trying to separate him from the rest of us. An assassination attempt. Someone had tried to kill Kieran." Alara's hands moved on instinct, pressing her jacket against the wound in his side to slow the bleeding. "We need to get him to the pack house. The healer." "Can't move him yet." Devon's face was grim. "The silver's already in his system. Moving him might spread it faster. We've sent for Elena, but she's on the other side of territory. It'll be at least 30 minutes. 30 minutes. Kieran could be dead in 30 minutes. No. Alara's wolf surged forward, flooding her with certainty. "No, he won't die. Not today." She pressed her hands directly against Kieran's burns. "Alara, don't." Devon tried to pull her back. "You'll poison yourself." But the moment her skin touched Kieran's, something extraordinary happened. The bond exploded between them, brilliant, golden, alive. Alara gasped, as power flooded through her, ancient and primal. She felt Kieran's pain as if it were her own, felt the silver burning through his veins like acid. And then she felt something else, a pulling sensation, like the bond was drawing the poison from his body into hers. "What?" Kieran's eyes widened. "Alara, stop. You'll kill yourself. Be quiet." She closed her eyes, focusing on the bond, on the golden thread that connected them. In her mind's eye, she could see it, a channel between their souls, and through that channel, she could draw the poison out. It hurt. God, it hurt, like swallowing fire. But she didn't let go. The silver flowed through the bond from Kieran's body into hers. She could feel it settling in her own bloodstream, burning, corroding. But her wolf rose up to meet it, attacking the foreign substance with savage efficiency. Because she was an Omega, and Omegas had one gift that no other rank possessed, the ability to heal. It was rare, so rare that most packs only saw it once in a generation, the ability to take someone's wounds, someone's poison, into yourself and neutralize it. Her grandmother had told her stories about it, but Alara had never manifested the gift. Until now. Until the moment her mate was dying in front of her. "Impossible," someone whispered. Alara didn't hear them. She was lost in the bond, drowning in Kieran's pain and her own, pulling the silver out drop by drop. She felt her own body beginning to fail, felt her heart stuttering, her lungs struggling. Just a little more, she thought desperately. Just a little more, and he'll be safe. Strong hands gripped her shoulders. "Alara, enough," Kieran's voice, Stronger now. You're killing yourself. Stop. Almost done. I said stop. His alpha command rolled over her, primal and absolute. But like before, something in her resisted. The bond made them equals. He couldn't command her to let him die. She pulled the last of the silver from his body into hers. And then the world went black. She woke to sunlight streaming across her face, and the sound of voices arguing. Your fault. If you hadn't spent 5 years treating her like garbage, she wouldn't have been leaving in the first place. That was Margaret. Angry Margaret. I know. Kieran's voice, low and wrecked. I know. She almost died. Do you understand that? She pulled enough silver out of you to kill 3 wolves, and her body absorbed it all. Elena says it's a miracle she's still breathing. I know. The anguish in those 2 words made Alara's chest ache. I know, Margaret. I was there. I watched her collapse. I felt her heart stop through the bond. Don't you think I know what she sacrificed? Silence fell, heavy and thick. Why did you let her leave? Margaret's voice had softened, but the accusation remained. If you felt the bond, if you knew what she was to you, why did you push her away? Because I'm a coward. Kieran's answer was simple. Honest. Because choosing her meant admitting my father was wrong, meant dismantling political alliances that took decades to build, meant accepting that, maybe, just maybe, there's more to life than power and territory. And now? Now she almost died, saving me. The sound of a chair scraping. Now I have to live with the fact that the woman I've spent 5 years rejecting just proved she's worth 1,000 Isabels, 1,000 political alliances, 1,000 empires. So what are you going to do about it? I don't know, Kieran admitted. But I can't. I can't keep hurting her. Can't keep trapping her in this half-life, where she's mine but not mine. She deserves better. She deserves the truth. She has the truth. I told her last night. Told her everything. And you let her walk away anyway. What was I supposed to do? Force her to stay with a man who's done nothing but cause her pain? His voice broke. She was choosing herself. Margaret. Finally choosing herself. And then I went and got ambushed. And she came running back like someone who loves you. Margaret finished quietly. Despite everything you've done, despite every reason you've given her not to, she loves you. Ilara's eyes burned. She kept them closed, not ready to face whatever came next. I know, Kieran whispered. And that's the worst part. Because she shouldn't. She should hate me. Should have let me die out there and taken her freedom. But she didn't. She saved me. And now you owe her. I owe her everything. The words were heavy with truth. Her life, her freedom, her happiness, and the only way I can pay that debt is by letting her go. Ilara's heart clenched. You're an idiot, Margaret said flatly. Excuse me? That girl didn't come back and nearly kill herself because she wants you to let her go. She came back because despite everything, despite 5 years of rejection and cruelty and being invisible, she still chose you. Margaret's voice turned fierce. So you can either honor that choice by actually being worthy of it, or you can disrespect her sacrifice by making the same coward's decision you've been making for 5 years. What's it going to be, Alpha? The door opened and closed. Footsteps retreated down the hallway. Silence filled the room. Ilara could feel Kieran's presence beside her bed, could sense him watching her, probably thinking she was still unconscious. I don't know how to be what you need, he said softly. I don't know how to choose love over duty. My father never taught me that, never showed me that it was possible. A pause. But you didn't hesitate, didn't calculate the cost or weigh the benefits. You just saved me, because that's who you are. The bed dipped as he sat beside her. I'm going to fix this, he continued, his voice rough with emotion. I don't know how yet. Don't know what it'll cost. But I'm going to end things with Isabel. Going to tell her father the truth. And if it means war, if it means losing half my territory, if it means... He stopped. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters, except making this right. Ilara's chest felt too tight. And if you still want to leave after that, Kieran finished quietly. If you need to get away from me and everything I represent, I'll help you. I'll make sure you're set up somewhere safe, somewhere beautiful, somewhere you can finally breathe. Because you were right last night. You deserve better than being someone's guilty secret. His hand brushed against hers, tentative, gentle. You deserve to be chosen, he whispered. Publicly, completely. No conditions, no hesitation. And I'm sorry, God. I'm so sorry that it took me 5 years and nearly dying to figure that out. Ilara couldn't pretend anymore. She opened her eyes. Kieran's face was inches from hers, his amber eyes red-rimmed with exhaustion and emotion. He'd clearly been awake all night. There was dried blood on his shirt. Her blood, she realized, from when he'd carried her back. You're awake, he breathed. How long? 18 hours. Elena said the silver should have killed you. But you're Omega healing. He shook his head in wonder. She's never seen anything like it. You're okay? Her voice came out raspy. I'm fine. Completely healed. Thanks to you. His hand tightened on hers. Ilara, what you did. Don't. She tried to pull away, but he held fast. Don't make it into something bigger than it was. You were dying. I helped. That's what pack members do. Is that what we are? Pack members? The question hung between them, loaded with everything unsaid. I don't know what we are, Ilara admitted. I heard what you told Margaret, about ending things with Isabel. But I already did. She blinked. What? This morning, I called a council meeting and officially broke our engagement. His jaw tightened. Her father was displeased, threatened to pull his support, maybe even declare war. The council was in an uproar. Kieran, I don't care. The words were fierce. Let them be angry. Let them threaten. You almost died because of choices I made, and I will not continue down that path. So what now? Ilara's heart hammered. You break your engagement, burn all your political bridges, and then what? Expect me to just forgive everything? No. He met her eyes steadily. I expect nothing from you. You don't owe me forgiveness. Don't owe me anything. He exhaled slowly. I wanted you to know that you matter, that you've always mattered, even when I was too proud and too stupid to admit it. If Ilara's sacrifice showed you that love is worth more than power, subscribe. Because stories like this deserve people who believe in second chances. Comment. Would you forgive someone who took 5 years to choose you? Tears burned behind Ilara's eyes. I need time. You can have all the time in the world. I need space. Need to figure out who I am when I'm not just pining after you. Pain flashed across his face, but he nodded. I understand. Do you? She pulled her hand free, wrapping her arms around herself. Because 5 minutes ago you were ready to let me leave, and now you're making grand gestures and breaking engagements. How do I know this isn't just guilt? How do I know you won't wake up in a month and regret throwing away your empire for someone like me? Someone like you? Kieran's voice turned rough. Ilara, you're a healer. Do you understand how rare that is? How precious. You saved my life with a gift most wolves only dream of possessing. So now I'm valuable. The bitterness in her voice surprised even her. Now that I've proven I'm useful, I'm worth keeping. That's not. He stopped, closed his eyes. You're right. I'm doing this all wrong. There is no right way. Ilara's voice shook. That's what you don't understand. You can't fix 5 years of rejection with one dramatic gesture. You can't erase the damage just because you finally figured out what you want. Then tell me what to do. Desperation crept into his tone. Tell me how to fix this. You can't. The words hurt to say. Some things once broken can't be put back together. They just stay broken. Kieran looked at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he stood, his posture rigid with alpha control. You're right, he said quietly. About all of it. And maybe Maybe the kindest thing I can do is give you the freedom I should have given you 5 years ago." He moved toward the door, then paused. "There's money in the account Elena set up for you. Enough to start over wherever you want. The bus tickets are on the nightstand, and if you need anything at all, you just have to ask." "Kieran." "Goodbye, Alara." His voice was heavy with finality. "I hope you find everything you're looking for, everything I couldn't give you." He was gone before she could respond. Alara sat in the sudden silence, her heart a mess of conflicting emotions. She'd wanted him to fight for her, but she'd also wanted him to let her go. Now that he'd done both, she had no idea what she wanted anymore. The bond pulsed in her chest, quieter now, less desperate, but still there, still connecting her to a man who'd just walked away, just like she'd asked him to. So why did it feel like losing instead of winning? Chapter 5. The Weight of Freedom. 3 days passed. 3 days of staying in the healer's wing, of Elena fussing over her recovery, of pack members she barely knew stopping by to thank her for saving their alpha. 3 days of feeling the bond stretch and strain as Kieran kept his distance. He'd meant what he said. He was giving her freedom, and it was suffocating her. Alara stared at the bus tickets on her nightstand, replacements for the ones she'd abandoned when she ran back to save him. Riverside. Then further south. Away from Blackwood territory, away from mate bonds and political nightmares and amber eyes that haunted her dreams. She should be packing, should be planning her escape. Instead, she was listening to pack gossip filter through her door. Heard Isabel's father threatened war. The alpha hasn't left his study in 2 days. Council wants him to fix things with the Western pack, but he refuses. All because of that Omega girl. Alara pressed her palms against her eyes. This was her fault. Kieran had blown up his entire political structure, and now the pack was paying the price. A knock at her door made her jump. "Come in." Margaret entered with a tray of food. "You need to eat something, girl. Elena says you've barely touched your meals." "I'm not hungry." "Liar." Margaret set the tray down with a decisive thunk. "You're moping." "I'm not. You saved the alpha's life. He broke his engagement for you, and now you're sitting here feeling guilty about it." Margaret's eyes were sharp. "Am I wrong?" Alara looked away. "Thought so." Margaret sat on the edge of the bed. "What's really going on in that head of yours?" "I don't know." Alara's voice came out small. "I wanted him to choose me, spent 5 years wanting exactly that. And now that he has, you don't know if you can trust it." "How can I?" The words burst out. "He spent 5 years proving I wasn't worth the trouble. 5 years making me feel invisible. And suddenly, because I have some useful healing gift, because I nearly died, he decides I matter." She shook her head. "That's not love, Margaret. That's guilt." "Is it?" Margaret tilted her head. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like a man who finally pulled his head out of his ass. Better late than never." 5 years isn't late. It's, Alara struggled for words. "It's too much damage, too much pain. I can't just forget that." "No one's asking you to forget." Margaret's voice softened. "But maybe you could try forgiving. Not for him, for yourself." "What if I can't?" "Then you take those bus tickets, and you go. You build that new life you were planning." Margaret squeezed her hand. "But Alara? Make sure you're running towards something, not just away from pain, because pain has a way of following you wherever you go." After Margaret left, Alara lay back against her pillows and stared at the ceiling. The bond pulsed in her chest, a steady, aching rhythm. She could feel Kieran in his study, could sense his exhaustion, his despair. Part of her wanted to go to him, wanted to ease the pain she felt radiating through their connection. The other part remembered 5 years of being invisible. Which part was she supposed to listen to? On the 4th day, Elena declared her well enough to leave the healer's wing. "Your recovery is remarkable," the older woman said, checking Alara's vitals one final time. "The silver should have damaged your system permanently. But your Omega healing," she shook her head in wonder, "it's extraordinary." "Can I ask you something?" Alara said quietly. Of course. The mate bond, between true mates. Is it really impossible to break? Alina's expression grew somber. You're asking if what the Alpha told you was true. Was it? Yes. Elena sat beside her. True mate bonds, the ones written by the moon goddess herself, can't be severed without killing one or both parties. They're rare. Most wolves go their entire lives without finding their true mate. But when it happens, she paused. It's both a blessing and a curse. Sounds more like a curse to me. Because your mate spent 5 years fighting it. Elena's eyes were kind. But Alara, think about what that means. He fought destiny itself for 5 years, and failed. The bond was too strong. You were too important. Eventually, the truth won. Only after I nearly died. Sometimes that's what it takes. For some people, near death is the only thing loud enough to wake them up. Elena squeezed her shoulder. What matters now is what you do with this second chance. Second chance. As if she owed Kieran anything after 5 years of rejection. But even as the thought formed, another voice whispered in her mind. He didn't just break the engagement. He risked war for you. I don't know what to do, Alara admitted. Then don't do anything. Not yet. Elena smiled. Give yourself time to heal. The body recovers faster than the heart. Alara returned to her small room in the servants' quarters, half expecting it to be exactly as she'd left it. Instead, she found it transformed. The narrow cot had been replaced with a proper bed. New curtains hung at the window. Her threadbare clothes had been supplemented with new ones, still simple but well made, and on the nightstand sat a small wooden box. Inside was a note in Kieran's distinctive handwriting. Your grandmother's things. Found them in pack storage. Thought you should have them. Beneath the note were treasures. Alara thought she'd lost forever. Her grandmother's journal, a few photographs, a silver bracelet that matched her pendant. She picked up the journal with shaking hands, running her fingers over the worn leather cover. He'd gone looking for these, had searched through decades of pack storage to find pieces of her past. That wasn't guilt. That was something else. Alara sank onto the new bed, clutching the journal to her chest. The bond hummed between them, and for the first time in days, she let herself reach through it. Let herself feel what Kieran was feeling. Exhaustion, bone-deep weariness. But underneath it, hope, fragile and tentative, but there. He was hoping she'd stay. Damn him, she thought. Damn him for making this so complicated. A knock at her door startled her. It's Devon, a male voice called. The Alpha requests your presence in his study. Ilara's heart lurched. Tell him He said to tell you it's not personal. It's pack business. A pause. There's been a development, with the Western pack. Dread pooled in her stomach. Isabel's father. The threatened war. She opened the door to find Devon looking grim. How bad is it? Bad enough that the Alpha wants you there when he makes his announcement. Kieran's study was packed with pack leadership, the council members, the head warriors, the advisors who kept Blackwood territory running. They all turned when Alara entered, their expressions ranging from curiosity to resentment. She was the Omega who'd disrupted everything, the nobody who'd somehow caught an Alpha's attention. Kieran stood behind his desk, looking like he hadn't slept in days. His eyes met hers briefly, a flash of relief, of longing, before he shuttered his expression back to Alpha neutrality. Thank you for coming, he said formally. What I'm about to discuss affects everyone here, but especially you. Ilara's stomach twisted. What happened? Alpha Crane, Isabel's father, has issued an ultimatum. Kieran's jaw tightened. Either I reinstate my engagement to his daughter within 7 days, or he considers our alliance void. Murmurs rippled through the room. That's not all, Kieran continued. He's also threatened to block our trade routes, pull his warriors from our borders, and encourage the other Western packs to do the same. Essentially, he's preparing to isolate us economically and militarily. That's tantamount to a declaration of war, one of the council members said. Yes. Then you have to fix this. Another counselor stepped forward. Apologize to Isabel. Tell her father it was a mistake. Reinstate the engagement before. No. The single word silenced the room. Kieran's eyes swept across his assembled leadership. I will not be marrying Isabel Crane. Not now. Not ever. That decision is final. But Alpha. I made a mistake 5 years ago, Kieran interrupted. I let politics dictate my personal life. Let my father's teachings override my own judgment. And in doing so, I dishonored the mate bond the moon goddess gave me. Every eye in the room turned to Alara. Alara is my true mate, Kieran said, clearly. Has been for 5 years. I rejected that bond because I was too proud, too focused on building an empire, to see what was right in front of me, but I won't make that mistake again. You're choosing an Omega over the Western Alliance? The counselor's voice dripped with disbelief. I'm choosing my mate over a political arrangement that would have made me miserable for the rest of my life. Kieran's voice was steel. And yes, there will be consequences. Yes, we may face economic hardship. Yes, there may even be conflict, but I will not sacrifice my mate for convenience. Ilara's breath caught. He wasn't asking her permission, wasn't making it her choice. He was claiming her, publicly and completely, regardless of the cost. This is insane. Another counselor exploded. You're risking everything your father built, for one woman. Yes, Kieran's eyes found Ilara's across the room. I am. The room erupted in argument. Some supported Kieran. Others thought he'd lost his mind. The noise swelled until it was nearly deafening. And through it all, Kieran watched her, waiting, hoping, giving her the choice he should have given her 5 years ago. Ilara's mind raced. If she accepted this, if she let him claim her, Pac would suffer, trade routes would close, alliances would crumble, everything Kieran had built would potentially fall apart, because of her. But if she refused, if she left like she'd planned, Kieran would spend the rest of his life trapped in a bond he couldn't break with a mate who'd rejected him. Neither choice was good. Both choices hurt. Enough. Kieran's alpha command silenced the room instantly. This isn't a debate. I'm informing you of my decision, not asking for your approval. His gaze swept the assembled wolves. Those who can't accept an Omega as your Luna are free to leave Blackwood territory. I won't force anyone to stay. Shocked silence. But know this, Kieran continued, his voice dropping to something dangerous. Alara is a healer. A true healer. Something this pack hasn't seen in 3 generations. She saved my life with a gift that most wolves would kill to possess. So before you judge her worth by her rank, remember that she's already proven herself more valuable than any political alliance. He was framing it strategically, making her gift the reason, not their bond, giving the pack a logical justification for accepting her. It should have made her feel better. Instead, it made her feel sick. Because once again, her value was tied to what she could offer. Her healing, her usefulness. Not her. I need to speak to the Alpha alone, Alara heard herself say. The room went silent. Everyone out, Kieran ordered. The pack leadership filed out slowly, shooting glances between Kieran and Alara. Devon was the last to leave, closing the door behind him with a soft click. And then they were alone. Kieran moved around his desk but stopped halfway to her, maintaining distance, respecting her space. You had no right, Alara said quietly. I know. You can't just make me your Luna without even asking if that's what I want. You're right. I should have asked. His hands clenched at his sides. Do you want to be my Luna? The question hung between them, heavy with 5 years of history. I don't know, Alara admitted. I don't know if I can trust this, if I can trust you. Then don't. The words seemed to cost him. Don't trust me, don't forgive me, but stay anyway. Why? Because the alternative is both of us being miserable for the rest of our lives. He took a step closer. Because you deserve to be Luna of this pack, whether you're with me or not. Because your healing gift could save hundreds of lives. Because his voice cracked. Because I'm begging you not to leave." There it was. The plea she'd wanted to hear for 5 years. And now that she had it, she didn't know what to do with it. "You told your pack I'm valuable because I can heal," she said. "Not because I'm your mate. Not because you love me. Because I'm useful." Understanding dawned on Kieran's face. "Alara, it's always going to be like this, isn't it?" Tears burned her eyes. "My worth measured by what I can offer. By how I make you look. By, I love you." The words stopped her mid-sentence. "I should have said it first," Kieran continued, his voice rough. "Before all the politics and strategies and justifications. I love you, have loved you since the moment the bond snapped into place, and I was too much of a coward to admit it." Alara's heart hammered. "You never said." I know. He closed the remaining distance between them, stopping just short of touching her. "I told myself love was weakness, that feeling this much for someone would destroy me, and then you almost died in my arms, and I realized the only thing that would truly destroy me is losing you." "Kieran, I'm not asking you to forgive me," he said quickly. "I'm not even asking you to love me back. He exhaled shakily. "I'm just asking you to stay, to give me a chance to prove I can be the mate you deserve. And if after that you still want to leave, I'll help you go. I'll make sure you're set up somewhere perfect. But please," his voice broke, "please don't leave yet, not when we've barely begun." Alara looked at him. Really looked at him. Saw the exhaustion carved into his face, the desperation in his eyes, the way his hands trembled slightly at his sides. This was Kieran Blackwood, stripped bare. No alpha armor, no political masks, just a man who'd realized too late what he'd almost lost. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Me too. What if this doesn't work? What if we try and it's not enough? Then at least we'll know we tried." He finally reached for her, his fingers ghosting along her jaw. "But Alara, I think it will be enough. I think if we actually let ourselves feel this bond, if we stop fighting it, it might be everything." The touch sent electricity racing through her. The bond sang between them, golden and bright, and so strong. She'd spent 5 years running from this feeling, 5 years denying what her wolf had known from the beginning. Maybe it was time to stop running. "Okay," she breathed. His eyes widened. "Okay? I'll stay." The words felt like jumping off a cliff. Give us a chance." "But Kieran?" She caught his hand, holding his gaze. "If you hurt me again, if you make me feel invisible or worthless, or like I'm just a convenient solution to your problems, I'm gone. And next time, I won't come back." "I understand." Relief flooded his features. Thank you for..." She kissed him. It wasn't planned, wasn't strategic. She just needed to know if the bond was right, if this impossible, complicated, painful thing between them was worth fighting for. The moment their lips touched, the world exploded. The bond flared so bright it was blinding. Every nerve ending came alive. Her wolf surged forward, recognizing, claiming, celebrating. Kieran made a sound low in his throat and pulled her closer, one hand tangling in her hair, the other settling at the small of her back. The kiss deepened, desperate and hungry, and 5 years overdue. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Kieran pressed his forehead against hers. "I'm going to spend the rest of my life making this up to you," he whispered. "Good." Alara's lips curved. "Because you have a lot to make up for." "I know." He kissed her again, softer this time. "But I'm a patient man, and you're worth the effort." For the first time in 5 years, Alara let herself believe him. Maybe this would work. Maybe they could build something beautiful from all this broken history. Or maybe they'd crash and burn spectacularly. Either way, she was done running. Done being invisible. Done waiting for someone else to decide she was worth choosing. She'd chosen herself, and in doing so, she'd finally given Kieran the chance to choose her too. The bond hummed between them, content at last. And outside Kieran's study, the pack waited to see if their alpha's gamble would save them or destroy them. Only time would tell. Chapter 6. The Claiming. The announcement went out at sunset. Kieran called the entire pack to the Great Hall, every wolf within Blackwood territory, from the highest-ranking warriors to the lowest Omegas. Alara stood beside him on the raised platform, her heart thundering against her ribs. This was it. No more hiding. No more being invisible. The hall was packed, wolves pressing shoulder to shoulder, their voices creating a low rumble of speculation. Alara could feel their eyes on her, curious, judgmental, assessing. She forced herself to stand tall, to meet their gazes without flinching. Kieran's hand found hers, his fingers lacing through hers with quiet certainty. The simple gesture sent murmurs through the crowd. "Silence," Kieran commanded, and the hall went instantly quiet. "I've called you here to make an announcement that will affect every member of this pack." The tension was thick enough to choke on. 5 years ago, I met my true mate. Kieran's voice carried through the hall, clear and unwavering. The moon goddess blessed me with a bond that should have been the greatest gift of my life. And I rejected it. Shocked whispers rippled through the crowd. I rejected it because my mate was an Omega, because she had no family, no alliances, nothing to offer politically. I rejected it because I was too proud, too focused on power, to see the value of what I'd been given. Alara's throat tightened. He was laying it all bare. Every mistake, every failure. That mate is Alara. Kieran turned to look at her, his amber eyes fierce with emotion. For 5 years, she lived in this pack house, invisible and ignored, while I pursued a political marriage that would have destroyed us both. She endured rejection, cruelty, and heartbreak, and never once did she turn bitter. Never once did she use the bond to manipulate or demand recognition. The crowd's attention shifted fully to Alara now. She could feel their reassessment, their surprise. 4 days ago, I was ambushed by rogues with silver weapons, Kieran continued. I should have died. Would have died. But Alara came back. She was at the border, finally leaving this place and the mate who'd rejected her, when she felt me dying through the bond. And she ran back. He paused, letting that sink in. She pulled enough silver from my body to kill 3 wolves. She absorbed the poison into herself, using a healing gift so rare that most packs never see it in a lifetime. She nearly died saving a man who'd spent 5 years making her feel worthless. Alara's eyes burned. She hadn't wanted this story told, hadn't wanted her sacrifice turned into spectacle. But Kieran wasn't finished. I broke my engagement to Isabel Crane because continuing it would have been a lie, because marrying her while bound to another would have dishonored us both. Alpha Crane has threatened war, threatened to destroy our alliances, threatened to isolate us economically. His voice hardened. And I accept those consequences, because some things are worth more than political convenience. He released Alara's hand and stepped forward, addressing the pack directly. I am formally claiming Alara as my mate and Luna of Blackwood Pack. Those who cannot accept an Omega as their Luna are free to challenge me or leave my territory. I won't force anyone to stay. His eyes swept the crowd, daring anyone to object. But understand this, Alara has proven her worth 1,000 times over. She has saved your Alpha's life. She possesses a gift that could save many more. And she has shown more strength and grace in 5 years of suffering than most wolves show in a lifetime. Silence stretched through the hall. Then, from the back, someone began to clap. Margaret. Tears streaming down her weathered face, applauding with fierce pride. Devon joined her. Then Elena. Then more voices, more hands, until half the hall was applauding, and the other half stood in stunned silence. Those in favor of accepting Alara as Luna, Kieran said formally, make yourselves known. The applause grew louder. Wolves stepped forward, bowing their heads in respect. Not everyone, some remained still, their expressions skeptical or hostile, but enough. More than enough. Those opposed or undecided may speak now, Kieran said. An older wolf stepped forward, one of the senior council members. Alpha. No one questions the Omega's bravery or her gift. But tradition, Kieran interrupted, said I should marry for alliances, said I should ignore the moon goddess's choice, said I should value politics over the bond itself. His voice was steel. And where did tradition get us? 5 years of misery, and a pack Luna who would have resented her position every day. But the Western Alliance will be replaced with other alliances, stronger ones, built on genuine respect rather than forced marriage. Kieran's tone left no room for argument. I've spent 5 years following tradition, counselor. It nearly destroyed the best thing that ever happened to me. I won't make that mistake again. The counselor bowed his head, conceding. Anyone else? Kieran's eyes swept the crowd. No one spoke. Then it settled. Kieran turned back to Alara, his expression softening. Unless the lady herself objects. Every eye in the hall fixed on her. Alara's mouth went dry. This was her chance. Her moment to refuse, to demand more time, to protect herself from potential heartbreak. But looking at Kieran, at the hope and fear and desperate love in his eyes, she couldn't do it. I accept, she said clearly. The bond exploded between them, singing with joy and recognition. Kieran pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her, his face buried in her neck. Thank you, he whispered against her skin. Thank you for giving me this chance. The pack erupted in cheers and applause. Someone started a traditional mating chant, the ancient words echoing through the hall. Others joined in, their voices rising in celebration, and Alara, for the first time in 5 years, felt like she belonged. The claiming ceremony was scheduled for 3 days later, time enough to prepare, but not so long that doubts could fester. Alara spent those days in a whirlwind of activity she wasn't prepared for. Margaret took charge of her wardrobe. You can't be Luna in those rags, she declared, dragging Alara to the packhouse's formal clothing stores. Elena taught her the traditional ceremony rituals. The claiming is sacred, she explained. It's not just a political appointment. It's a spiritual binding. Devon and the warriors briefed her on pack defenses and protocols. Luna needs to know how to protect the pack if Alpha falls, Devon said seriously. And through it all, Kieran hovered nearby, not controlling, but present, making sure she wasn't overwhelmed, making sure she knew she could stop this at any time. You don't have to go through with this, he told her the night before the ceremony. They were in his study, reviewing the ritual words she'd need to speak. If you're having second thoughts, I'm not. Alara looked up from the parchment. Are you? Never. His hand covered hers. But Alara, once we do this, once I mark you and complete the bond, there's no going back. You'll be bound to me and to this pack for life. I know. And if the Western Alliance falls apart, if there's war, you'll be at the center of it. Target number 1 for anyone who wants to hurt me. I know that too. She squeezed his hand. I'm not fragile, Kieran. I survived 5 years of rejection. I think I can handle some political drama. His laugh was surprised and genuine. You're stronger than I ever gave you credit for. Yes. She met his eyes steadily. I am. He pulled her close, pressing a kiss to her forehead. I don't deserve you. Probably not. But she was smiling. Good thing the moon goddess doesn't care about what we deserve. The night before the ceremony, Alara couldn't sleep. She lay in her new quarters. She'd been moved from the servants' wing to rooms adjacent to Kieran's and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, she'd go from invisible Omega to Pac Luna. The bond pulsed in her chest. Kieran was awake too, she realized. She could feel his restlessness through their connection. Before she could talk herself out of it, Alara slipped out of bed and padded down the hall to his rooms. She knocked softly. Kieran? The door opened immediately. He stood there in sleep pants and nothing else, his hair mussed, his eyes shadowed with exhaustion. Can't sleep either? He asked. Too nervous. She bit her lip. Can I come in? He stepped aside wordlessly, and she entered his private space for the first time. It was surprisingly sparse, functional furniture, minimal decoration. A warrior's room. Not an alpha's palace. I never made it feel like home, Kieran said, reading her expression. Always felt temporary. Like I was waiting for something. For what? For you. He closed the door behind her. I think I've been waiting for you to be here since the moment we met. Alara's heart clenched. You have a funny way of showing it. I know. He moved to the window, looking out at the moonlit grounds. I keep expecting you to change your mind, to realize you're making a mistake. Are you trying to talk me out of this? No. God, no. He turned to face her. I'm scared, Alara, terrified, because I finally have everything I want, and I don't trust myself not to ruin it. The vulnerability in his voice pulled her across the room. She stopped in front of him, placing her hand over his heart. It thundered beneath her palm. Then don't ruin it, she said simply. Choose me. Every day. In every moment. When it's easy, and when it's hard. When I'm convenient and when I'm complicated. Her eyes met his. That's all I'm asking. Every day, he repeated, covering her hand with his. I can do that. Can you? Because Kieran, tomorrow doesn't fix 5 years of pain. The ceremony doesn't erase what happened. We're going to have hard days. Days when I remember how much you hurt me. Days when I'm angry or scared or doubt everything. I know. And you need to promise me that on those days, especially on those days, you'll still choose me. You won't shut down or pull away, or make me feel like I'm too much trouble. I promise. His hand cupped her face. I promise, Alara. Even on the worst days. Even when you hate me. Even when I don't deserve you. I'll be here. She searched his eyes, looking for any hint of doubt or reservation. Found only fierce determination. Okay. She breathed. Okay? I believe you. The words felt like a leap of faith. I believe you'll try. The relief that washed over his face was almost painful to witness. He pulled her close, holding her like she might disappear. Stay tonight, he whispered into her hair. Not for anything physical. Just stay. Let me hold you. Let me know this is real. Alara nodded against his chest, too full of emotion to speak. They climbed into his bed together, awkward at first, neither quite sure where to put their limbs. But then Kieran wrapped his arm around her waist, pulling her back against his chest, and everything clicked into place. The bond hummed contentedly between them. Her wolf settled, finally at peace. I love you, Kieran murmured into the darkness. I should have said it years ago. Should have said it every day. But I'm saying it now, and I'll keep saying it until you believe it. Tears slipped down Alara's cheeks. I love you too. Even though I tried not to. Even though I spent 5 years trying to stop. I love you. His arms tightened around her. Tomorrow, I make you mine. Officially. Completely. No more hiding. No more shame. Tomorrow, she agreed. They lay in the darkness, listening to each other breathe, feeling the bond pulse between them like a second heartbeat. And for the first time in 5 years, Alara felt safe. Dawn broke too soon. Alara woke to find Kieran already awake, propped on one elbow, watching her with an expression so tender it made her chest ache. Good morning, almost Luna, he said softly. Don't jinx it. But she was smiling. I could still change my mind. Don't you dare. He kissed her slow and sweet and full of promise. Today, you become mine, and I become yours, completely. A knock at the door interrupted them. Alpha? Margaret's voice called. The pack is gathering. It's time. Kieran's eyes never left Alara's face. Ready? Was she? Ready to bind herself to this man, this pack, this complicated future? Ready to finally stop running and start building? Yes, she said. I'm ready. The ceremony took place under the full moon in the sacred grove at the heart of Blackwood territory. Ancient trees surrounded a circular clearing, where generations of alphas had claimed their lunas. The entire pack formed rings around the clearing warriors closest, then pack members by rank, spreading outward until hundreds of wolves witnessed the ritual. Alara wore traditional white, a simple dress that left her shoulders bare for the marking. Her grandmother's pendant hung around her neck, a piece of her past blessing her future. Kieran waited in the center of the clearing, dressed in formal black, his eyes glowing amber in the moonlight. He looked every inch, the alpha, powerful, commanding, untouchable, until she stepped into the clearing, and his expression melted into something raw and vulnerable and completely human. Elena stood between them, the pack's elder and ritual keeper. We gather under the moon's blessing to witness the claiming of Luna Alara by Alpha Kieran of Blackwood Pack. The traditional words rolled through the clearing. Ancient and powerful. Alara of no pack, Elena continued. Do you come here of your own free will, without coercion or manipulation? choosing this bond with open eyes and willing heart? I do, Elara said clearly. Kieran Blackwood, Alpha of the Northern Territories. Do you claim this woman as your true mate? Do you vow to protect, honor, and cherish her above all others? To place her needs equal to your pack's? To choose her in every moment, in every trial, until death claims you both? I do. Kieran's voice was rough with emotion. I claim her. Before the moon. Before the pack. Before the goddess herself, I claim Elara as mine. Elena nodded. Then speak the vows. Kieran stepped forward, taking Elara's hands in his. His thumbs brushed over her knuckles as he met her eyes. I was lost before I found you, he said, broken in ways I didn't understand. I rejected the greatest gift I'd ever been given because I was too afraid to accept it, too proud to admit that power meant nothing without someone to share it with. Tears slipped down Elara's cheeks. You saved my life, Kieran continued. Not just from the silver. From a lifetime of emptiness. Of going through the motions without ever truly living. His voice cracked. I can't promise I'll never make mistakes. Can't promise this will always be easy. But I can promise that every day, in every way that matters, I will choose you. I will see you. I will honor what you've sacrificed to be here. He raised her hands to his lips, kissing each knuckle. I claim you, Elara. My mate. My Luna. My everything. The bond flared between them, golden and brilliant. Now it was Elara's turn. She took a shaky breath, gathering her courage. I spent 5 years invisible, she said. 5 years believing I wasn't enough, wasn't valuable enough, wasn't worthy enough. You taught me that lesson well. Kieran flinched, but didn't look away. But I also learned that my worth isn't determined by someone else's ability to see it. Elara continued. I am strong. I am valuable. I am worthy with or without you. She squeezed his hands. I choose to be here not because I need you, but because I want you. Because despite everything, the bond between us is real. Because I believe. Her voice wavered. I believe you when you say you'll try. And trying is enough. For now. She stepped closer, close enough that their hearts beat in sync. I claim you, Kieran Blackwood. My mate, my alpha, my second chance at everything. The pack erupted in howls and cheers. Elena raised her hands for silence. Then, by the power granted to me by the moon goddess and Blackwood pack, I recognize this claiming. Alpha Kieran, mark your mate. Make this bond unbreakable. Kieran's eyes flashed amber as his wolf surged forward. He pulled Elara against him, tilting her head to expose the curve of her neck where shoulder met throat. This will hurt, he murmured. But I'll make it quick. I trust you, she breathed. His teeth sank into her neck, sharp, precise, claiming. Pain lanced through her, bright and intense. But underneath it, something else: pleasure, completion, rightness. The bond exploded between them, no longer just a connection but a complete fusion. She could feel everything he felt: his love, his relief, his desperate joy. Could feel his wolf recognizing her wolf, claiming her as pack, as mate, as his. When he released her, blood trickled down her neck. Kieran's tongue swept over the mark, sealing it, healing it. The claiming mark would remain forever, a silver scar in the shape of his teeth. Mine, he growled softly. Finally mine. Yours, she agreed. The pack's howls shook the night sky. Wolves shifted, their animal forms celebrating the new Luna in the ancient way. Elena smiled. I present to you Luna Elara Blackwood. May her reign be long and her wisdom endless. Kieran swept Elara into his arms, spinning her as she laughed. Her heart finally whole. The first stars appeared overhead, the moon goddess's blessing shining down on her chosen pair. And in that moment, surrounded by pack and moonlight, and the mate who'd finally learned to see her, Elara understood. This was what destiny felt like. Worth waiting for. Worth fighting for. Worth every moment of pain it took to get here. Chapter 7. The Reckoning. The celebration lasted until dawn. Elara had never experienced anything like it. The entire pack coming together, wolves of all ranks drinking and dancing, and celebrating their new Luna. For someone who'd spent 5 years invisible, being the center of attention was overwhelming. But Kieran never left her side. His hands stayed at the small of her back, steady and reassuring. The claiming mark on her neck throbbed with a pleasant ache, sending waves of contentment through the bond. "You're doing great," he murmured in her ear during a brief lull. "I'm terrified," she admitted. "Good. That means you understand what a big deal this is." His lips brushed her temple. "But Alara, you were born for this. You just didn't know it yet." Margaret approached with tears streaming down her weathered face. "Oh, sweetheart, look at you. A proper Luna." She pulled Alara into a fierce hug. "Your grandmother would be so proud." "I wish she could have seen this," Alara whispered. "She knows. Trust me, she knows." Margaret pulled back, cupping Alara's face. "You did it, girl. You chose yourself. And look what happened." Devon raised a glass, calling for attention. A toast to Luna Alara, who proved that true strength isn't about rank or birthright. It's about having the courage to save someone who didn't deserve saving. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Kieran grimaced good-naturedly. "And to Alpha Kieran," Devon continued, who finally pulled his head out of his. "Careful," Kieran warned, but he was smiling. "Who finally realized what he had before it was too late," Devon finished. "May their bond be unbreakable, and their reign long." "Here, here," the pack chorused, raising their glasses. Alara caught Kieran's eye. Through the bond, she felt his overwhelming relief, his gratitude that she was here, that she'd stayed, that she'd given him this impossible second chance. "I love you," she mouthed. His eyes blazed. "I love you more." The celebration continued, but eventually exhaustion crept in. Kieran leaned close. "Ready to escape?" "God, yes." He took her hand and led her away from the festivities, back toward the pack house. The bond hummed between them, charged with anticipation and nervous energy. They'd slept in the same bed last night, but tonight was different. Tonight she was officially his mate, his Luna. Tonight, there would be no holding back. Kieran's rooms, their rooms now, were exactly as they'd left them that morning, but everything felt different. The air seemed heavier, charged with possibility. He closed the door behind them, and the sounds of celebration faded to a distant murmur. "Alara," he began, but she pressed her fingers to his lips. "Don't talk," she whispered. "We've done enough talking." She reached up and pulled him down into a kiss, slow and deep and full of 5 years of waiting. Kieran made a sound low in his throat, his hands sliding into her hair, careful of the intricate braids Margaret had woven for the ceremony. The bond sang between them, pushing them closer, demanding completion. "I need you," Kieran murmured against her lips. "Need to know this is real." "Then make it real," Alara breathed. Later, much later, they lay tangled together in the moonlight streaming through the window. Alara's head rested on Kieran's chest, listening to his heartbeat slow to a steady rhythm. His fingers traced lazy patterns on her shoulder, careful around the claiming mark. "Does it hurt?" he asked softly. "No, it feels right." She pressed her lips to his chest, like a piece of me that was always missing just clicked into place. "That's exactly what it is." His arms tightened around her. "True mates are two halves of one soul. We were incomplete without each other. Even when you were trying to ignore it? Especially then." His voice turned rough. "Every moment I spent pretending you didn't exist, I felt like I was suffocating, like I couldn't quite catch my breath. And I told myself it was stress, was pressure, was anything but what it actually was, my soul crying out for its other half." Alara tilted her head to look at him. "Do you regret it? Choosing me over the Western Alliance?" "Never." The answer was immediate. "Alara, I don't care if every pack on the continent turns against us. I don't care if we lose territory, or wealth, or power. Nothing is worth losing you." "You say that now, but what if there is a war? What if wolves die because you chose me?" He was quiet for a long moment. "Then I'll carry that weight. I'll do everything in my power to prevent it, to find diplomatic solutions, to protect our pack. But Alara," he cupped her face, making her look at him, "I won't sacrifice you to avoid conflict. Won't throw you away to buy peace. My father built this pack on fear and domination. Maybe it's time we tried something different. Like what? Like building alliances based on respect, instead of forced marriages. Like showing other packs that strength comes from unity, not subjugation. His thumb brushed her cheek. Like proving that an alpha who honors his mate is stronger than one who treats her as a political tool. Hope loomed in Alara's chest. You really believe that? I have to. His smile was crooked, because the alternative is admitting I destroyed everything for nothing, and I refuse to believe that loving you is nothing. She kissed him again, soft and sweet and full of promise. They were drifting off to sleep when a sharp knock shattered the peaceful silence. Alpha! Devon's voice was urgent. We have a situation. Kieran was on his feet instantly, pulling on clothes. What is it? Scouts just reported movement at the western border. It's Alpha Crane. He's brought an army. The blood drained from Alara's face. This was it. The war Kieran had been willing to risk. And it was happening now. The command center was chaos when they arrived. Maps covered every surface. Scouts delivered reports in rapid-fire succession. Warriors geared up for potential combat. Alpha Crane had brought at least 200 wolves to their border, a massive show of force. They're not attacking, Devon reported. Just waiting, like they want us to see them. It's a power play, one of the council members said grimly. He's showing us what we lost by breaking the alliance. Kieran studied the maps, his expression carved from stone. Through the bond, Alara felt his racing thoughts, his calculations. How long until they could breach our territory? He asked. If they attacked now, they'd be at the pack house in under an hour, Devon said. We don't have the numbers to hold them off. Then we negotiate. Kieran's jaw clenched. Send word to Alpha Crane. Tell him I request parley under moon law, neutral ground. Just the two of us. Alpha. That's a terrible idea, a warrior protested. He could kill you. Under moon law, I'm protected. If he violates parley, every pack on the continent would turn against him. Kieran's eyes were hard. He won't risk that. He wants something. Let's find out what. Devon looked like he wanted to argue, but nodded. I'll send a runner. Kieran turned to Alara. Through the bond she felt his fear, not for himself, but for her, for what might happen if this went wrong. Don't, she said quietly. Don't ask me to hide while you face this. Alara, I'm your Luna now. That means I stand beside you. In everything. She lifted her chin, especially in this. Pride flickered across his features, quickly replaced by worry. If something happens, then we handle it together. She took his hand, lacing their fingers. That's what mates do, right? He pulled her close, pressing his forehead to hers. I don't deserve you. No, she agreed. But you're stuck with me anyway. His laugh was rough. Best decision I ever made. The runner returned within the hour. Alpha Crane had agreed to parley. The meeting place was the old stone bridge that marked the border between Blackwood and Crane territories, neutral ground, visible from both sides, protected by ancient moon law that forbade violence during formal negotiations. Kieran and Alara approached from the east. Alpha Crane stood on the western side, flanked by two massive warriors. He was older than Kieran, maybe mid-50s, with silver threading through his dark hair and eyes like chips of ice. Beside him stood Isabel. Alara's steps faltered. She hadn't expected to face the woman Kieran had almost married, the woman who represented everything. Alara wasn't polished, politically connected, the perfect alpha's mate. Isabel's eyes locked on Alara, and something complicated flickered across her face. Pain, anger, and underneath it all, relief. Blackwood, Alpha Crane said, his voice like gravel. You've caused quite a mess. Alpha Crane. Kieran's tone was formal, respectful. Thank you for agreeing to meet. I didn't have much choice. My daughter has been inconsolable since you humiliated her in front of your entire pack. Guilt flashed through the bond. Kieran's jaw tightened. That was never my intention. Isabel deserved better than being rejected for an Omega nobody. Crane's lip curled. You're right. She did deserve better. Father, Isabel said quietly. He ignored her. You broke a betrothal agreement that took years to negotiate, insulted my daughter publicly, threw away an alliance that would have united half the continent. His eyes narrowed. And for what? A mate bond you could have ignored. Plenty of alphas maintain political marriages while keeping their true mates on the side. I'm not plenty of alphas, Kieran said coldly, and I won't dishonor my mate by treating her as something to hide. How noble. Crane's sarcasm was thick. And how stupid. Did you think there wouldn't be consequences? That I'd simply accept this insult and walk away? I knew there would be consequences. I accepted them. Did you? Crane gestured to the army behind him. Because I'm offering you one chance to fix this. Reject that Omega. Restore your engagement to Isabel, and I'll forget this unfortunate incident ever happened. The bond flared with Kieran's instant, visceral rejection of the idea. No, he said flatly. Think carefully, Blackwood. You're outnumbered, outmatched. If I attack, your pack will fall. Your territory will be absorbed into mine. Everything your father built will be destroyed. Crane's smile was sharp. All because you couldn't keep your wolf in check. My answer is no. Kieran's hand found Alara's, squeezing tight. I will not reject my mate. Not for politics. Not for peace. Not for anything. Then you choose war. If that's what it takes. Alara's heart hammered. This was happening. Wolves would die because Kieran chose her over an alliance. Wait, she heard herself say. Every eye turned to her. Alara, Kieran warned through the bond. Don't. Alpha Crane, she said, stepping forward. May I speak? Crane's eyebrows rose. The Omega has a voice. How refreshing. I'm not just an Omega anymore. I'm Luna of Blackwood Pack. She kept her voice steady, despite her racing heart. And as Luna, I'm asking you, what do you actually want? Excuse me? You brought an army, made threats, but you agreed to parley instead of attacking outright. Alara tilted her head. Why? If you truly wanted war, you'd already be fighting. So what do you actually want? Silence stretched across the bridge. Justice, Crane finally said. For my daughter, for the insult you've caused my family. Justice, not war. War is justice when honor demands it. Or Alara said carefully, justice is compensation, reparation, something that restores your family's honor without spilling blood. Interest flickered in Crane's eyes. What are you suggesting? I don't know yet, but there has to be something between reject my mates and destroy each other. She glanced at Isabel. What would restore your honor, Lady Isabel? If you could have anything, what would make this right? Isabel blinked, clearly not expecting to be addressed directly. She looked at her father, then at Kieran, then finally at Alara. I want the truth, she said quietly. I want Kieran to admit publicly that I did nothing wrong, that this wasn't about me being inadequate or unworthy, that the only reason he couldn't marry me was a mate bond he couldn't control. Done, Kieran said immediately. I'll make a formal statement to every pack within our territories. You were faultless in this, Isabel. This was never about you. And, Isabel continued, her voice strengthening, I want compensation for the political damage this has caused. My reputation has taken a hit. Future alliances will be harder to negotiate because wolves will wonder if I'm somehow defective. Name your price, Kieran said. Timber rights to the Silverwood Forest, Alpha Crane interjected, for the next 50 years, and favorable trade agreements on all iron ore, coming from your territory. Kieran's jaw clenched. Those were significant concessions, millions in lost revenue. But through the bond, Alara felt his decision before he spoke it. Agreed. Timber rights and trade agreements. In exchange you withdraw your army and acknowledge that the broken betrothal was mutual and without fault on either side. And you make a public statement explaining the mate bond, Crane added. So every pack knows my daughter wasn't rejected for inadequacy. I'll do it tomorrow. Before witnesses. Crane studied Kieran for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Very well, we have an agreement. He extended his hand across the invisible borderline. Kieran shook it, and Alara felt tension drain from his shoulders. One more thing, Isabel said. She looked directly at Alara. I want an apology. From her? Alara blinked. For what? For existing. Isabel's smile was bitter. For being the reason I wasted 5 years of my life, waiting for a man who could never truly be mine. For being the invisible obstacle I couldn't fight or compete with. The unfairness of it stung. But looking at Isabel, really looking at her, Alara saw the same pain she'd felt for 5 years. The same frustration of loving someone who couldn't love you back. I'm sorry, Alara said sincerely. You're right. You did nothing wrong. You deserved better than being a political solution to a problem that had no real solution. And for whatever pain my existence caused you, I'm truly sorry. Isabel's eyes widened, as if she hadn't expected genuine remorse. Thank you, she said quietly. And I'm sorry too, for the things I said about you, for not seeing that you were suffering just as much as I was. We were both trapped in someone else's mess, Alara said. Neither of us deserved it. No, Isabel agreed. We didn't. She turned to her father. I'm satisfied. We can go. Alpha Crane nodded. The agreement stands. I'll withdraw my forces by dawn, but Blackwood, his eyes hardened. If you ever dishonor my family again, there won't be negotiations. There will only be war. Understood, Kieran said. Crane and Isabel turned to leave, but at the edge of the bridge, Isabel looked back. Treat her well, she called to Kieran. She fought for you when she had every reason not to. Don't waste that. I won't, Kieran promised. And then they were gone, disappearing into the western forest with their army in tow. Alara sagged against Kieran, her legs suddenly weak. Did that just work? Did we just avoid a war? You did. He pulled her close, burying his face in her hair. You brilliant, amazing woman. You found a solution I couldn't see. I just asked what they actually wanted. Sometimes the simplest answer is the right one. That's what makes you a good Luna. He kissed the top of her head. You see people, really see them. It's a gift. Through the bond she felt his overwhelming relief, his pride, his bone-deep love. We should get back, she said. The pack will be worried. In a minute, he held her tighter. Just let me hold my mate and thank the moon goddess I was smart enough not to let her go. Alara smiled against his chest. You almost did. Biggest mistake I almost made. He pulled back enough to look at her. No more almost. No more hesitation. You're mine, Alara Blackwood. And I'm going to spend every day proving I deserve that. You better, she said. Because I'm not going anywhere. Good. He kissed her, deep, and claiming and full of promise. Because I'd hunt you to the ends of the earth if you tried. They walked back to Blackwood territory hand in hand. The crisis averted, their bond stronger than ever. Behind them, the moon rose over the bridge, the goddess's blessing on a negotiation that saved hundreds of lives. And ahead of them, the pack waited, ready to celebrate their Luna, who'd proven herself in the crucible of politics and power. Alara had gone from invisible to indispensable in a matter of days, and she was just getting started. Chapter 8. The Luna's Strength. News of the negotiations spread through the pack like wildfire. By the time Kieran and Alara returned to the pack house, wolves lined the path, their faces bright with relief, and something else, respect. They bowed as Alara passed, murmuring Luna, with genuine reverence. It was overwhelming. Just days ago, these same wolves had barely noticed her existence. They're not bowing to your rank, Kieran murmured in her ear. They're bowing to what you did. You saved lives tonight, Alara. Prevented a war that would have torn families apart. I just talked to them. Asked questions. Exactly. His hand squeezed hers. Most leaders only know how to fight or command. You showed them diplomacy, empathy. It's a strength this pack has been missing. In the Great Hall, Devon and the warriors waited with the council. The tension was palpable. They'd been preparing for battle, gathering weapons, saying what might have been final goodbyes to loved ones. "Stand down," Kieran announced. "The crisis is resolved. Alpha Crane has withdrawn his forces. There will be no war." The hall erupted in cheers and relieved laughter. Warriors embraced. Council members sagged in their seats. Margaret openly wept. "How?" Devon asked, incredulous. "Crane brought an army. He was ready to destroy us." "Luna Ilara negotiated a settlement," Kieran said, pride evident in his voice. "Timber rights, trade agreements, and public acknowledgement that the broken betrothal was due to the mate bond, not any fault of Isabel's." Eyes swiveled to Ilara. She felt the weight of their attention, their reassessment. "You negotiated with Alpha Crane?" one of the skeptical council members asked. "The man who threatened to burn our territory to ash." "I asked him what he actually wanted," Ilara said simply. "Turned out it wasn't war. It was justice for his daughter. Once we addressed that, everything else fell into place." "Remarkable," Elena murmured. "Truly remarkable." "The Luna has proven herself," another council member said, the one who'd questioned tradition during the claiming announcement. He stood and bowed deeply. "I apologize for doubting your worthiness. You've shown more wisdom in one night than some show in a lifetime." Others echoed his sentiment. One by one, the council members who'd been hesitant or hostile acknowledged her contribution, acknowledged her value. Ilara's throat tightened. This was what she'd wanted, to be seen, to be valued, to matter. But as the praise continued, something uncomfortable twisted in her stomach. They were grateful because she'd been useful, because her negotiation had saved them. What happened when she wasn't useful, when she made mistakes or failed to solve problems? Would they still value her then? Through the bond, Kieran felt her unease. He pulled her aside while the pack celebrated. "What's wrong?" "Nothing. She struggled for words. "They respect me now because I did something valuable. But what if I can't always do that? What if next time I fail?" Understanding softened his expression. "Ilara, you're not valued because you're useful. You're valued because you're you. The negotiation just helped them see what I've known all along, that you're extraordinary." "Am I? Or am I just the Omega who got lucky?" "You're the woman who saved my life when you had every reason to let me die, who faced down Alpha Crane without flinching, who sees solutions where others only see conflict." He cupped her face. "That's not luck. That's who you are." She wanted to believe him, wanted to accept the praise without the nagging voice that whispered she still had to prove herself over and over. "Come on," Kieran said gently. "Let's get some rest. It's been a long night." Sleep didn't come easily. Ilara lay in their bed, listening to Kieran's steady breathing, her mind racing. The claiming mark on her neck pulsed with the bond's contentment. Her wolf was satisfied, complete. But her human mind couldn't quiet. She was Luna now, had responsibilities, expectations, a pack depending on her. What if she couldn't live up to it? What if the negotiation had been a fluke, and she'd crumble under pressure next time? "I can feel you spiraling," Kieran murmured in the darkness. "Talk to me." "I'm scared," she admitted. "Everyone's acting like I'm some brilliant strategist. But I just talked. I don't know if I can do it again. What if next time?" "Next time you'll do your best. And if you fail, we'll handle it together." He pulled her close. "Ilara, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be present. That's all I'm asking." "What if being present isn't enough?" "It will be." His lips brushed her forehead. "But if you're really worried, we can start your Luna training tomorrow. Elena's been waiting to teach you pack history, territory management, crisis protocols. Devon wants to show you defensive strategies. Margaret has a list of social customs you should know." "That sounds like a lot." "It is. But you don't have to learn it all at once." His hand rubbed soothing circles on her back. "One day at a time, one lesson at a time, and I'll be with you through all of it." The reassurance helped. A little. "Kieran," she whispered. "Yeah? Thank you for choosing me." even though it's complicated and messy and probably a terrible political decision. His laugh rumbled through his chest. Best terrible decision I ever made. She smiled against his skin. And finally, let sleep claim her. Luna training began at dawn. Alina arrived with a stack of leather-bound journals, pack histories dating back 200 years. Every Luna before you has kept records. Births, deaths, alliances, conflicts. You need to know where we've been to understand where we're going. Ilara stared at the massive pile. All of this? Over time, Alina smiled. Start with the most recent 50 years. Understanding your predecessor's challenges will help you navigate your own. The previous Luna had been Kieran's mother, a woman who'd died when he was 12. Reading her careful notes about managing pack politics, mediating disputes, and supporting her mate through difficult decisions gave Ilara a strange sense of connection. She was strong, Ilara murmured, reading an entry about negotiating water rights with a neighboring pack. She was, Elena agreed. But she also struggled. See this entry? She pointed to a passage written in shaky handwriting. She nearly died giving birth to Kieran, was bedridden for months. The pack doubted she could continue as Luna. What changed their minds? She came back stronger, proved that vulnerability doesn't mean weakness. Elena met Ilara's eyes. Remember that? You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be honest. After history lessons came territory management with Devon. He spread maps across the war room table, pointing out borders, resources, potential threats. The northern border is our weakest point, he explained. That's where the rogue attack happened. We've increased patrols, but we're stretched thin. Why are rogues targeting us? Ilara asked. Good question. Devon's approval was evident. We don't know. Rogues usually avoid pack territory, too risky. But these ones were organized, had silver weapons. Someone's funding them. Who? That's what we're trying to figure out. He showed her reports from scouts, incident logs, patterns in the attacks. As Luna, you'll need to stay informed about security threats. If something happens to the Alpha, command falls to you. The weight of that responsibility settled on her shoulders. I'm not a warrior. No, but you are a strategist. You proved that last night. Devon grinned. Besides, you don't need to fight. You just need to make smart decisions and trust your warriors to execute them. Margaret's social training was somehow more terrifying than security briefings. There are 17 allied packs within our territory network, she said, showing Ilara a complicated chart of relationships. Each has their own customs, hierarchies, sensitive political situations. You need to know who's feuding with who owes us favors, who we owe. This is impossible, Ilara groaned, staring at the web of connections. It's not. You just need practice. Margaret patted her hand. Don't worry. I'll be with you at every event until you've got it down. What kind of events? Pack gatherings, alliance meetings, formal ceremonies. As Luna, you're expected to attend and often host. Margaret's eyes sparkled. And there's the Luna's Council, a gathering of all Lunas in the Northern Territories. Happens twice a year. Ilara's stomach dropped. I have to meet other Lunas? Eventually, but not for a few months. You'll have time to find your footing first. By midday, Ilara's head was spinning with information. She retreated to the gardens for a moment of peace, sitting on a stone bench beneath a willow tree. Mind if I join you? She looked up to find a young woman hovering nearby, maybe 20 years old, with kind eyes and a tentative smile. Of course, Ilara said. The woman sat, fidgeting with her hands. I'm sorry to bother you, Luna. I just wanted to thank you. For what? For existing. The woman laughed self-consciously. That probably sounds strange. But I'm an Omega too, and my whole life, I've been told that's all I'll ever be, that I should be grateful for whatever scraps of respect I can get. And then you became Luna, and suddenly, she looked up, eyes shining. Suddenly, it feels like maybe I could be more too. Ilara's throat tightened. What's your name? Sage. Well, Sage, You already are more. You always were. I'm just the one who happened to get lucky with a mate bond. It's not just luck, though. Sage's voice was fierce. You saved the Alpha's life. You negotiated with Alpha Crane. You're proving that Omegas can be strong and valuable and worthy of respect. That matters. More than you know. After Sage left, Ilara sat in the garden for a long time, thinking about responsibility and representation, and the weight of other people's hopes. She'd wanted to be seen, to matter. But she hadn't fully understood what that would mean. That evening, Kieran found her still in the gardens, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson. There you are. He sat beside her, pulling her against his side. You've been hiding. Not hiding, just thinking. About how many people are watching me now, waiting to see if I'll succeed or fail. She leaned into his warmth. What if I let them down? Then you apologize, learn from it, and try again. His arm tightened around her. Ilara, leadership isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up, even when it's hard, even when you're scared. Were you scared? When you became Alpha? Terrified. The admission surprised her. I was 23. My father had just died. The pack was looking to me for guidance, and I had no idea what I was doing. I made mistakes. Big ones. Hurt people I cared about. His voice dropped. Pushed away the woman the moon goddess gave me, because I was too afraid to be vulnerable. But you learned. Eventually, after causing a lot of unnecessary pain, he turned to face her. Don't make my mistakes, Ilara. Don't let fear make you cruel. Don't hide behind duty when what you really need to do is feel. She studied his face. The sharp lines. The amber eyes that had looked through her for so long. Now seeing her so completely, it made her ache. I love you, she said. Even on the days when I remember how much you hurt me. Even when I'm scared of failing, I love you. I love you too. He kissed her softly. And I'm going to keep proving that every single day, starting with this. He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. Ilara's heart stuttered. Kieran. It's not what you think. He opened the box to reveal a delicate silver ring set with a moonstone. It was my mother's. Her grandmother gave it to her when she became Luna. He took Ilara's hand, sliding the ring onto her finger. It's passed down through generations, a symbol of the Luna's strength and wisdom. The ring fit perfectly, the moonstone catching the dying light. Your mother would have liked you, Kieran said softly. She always said the pack needed a Luna who led with her heart, not just her head. You're everything she would have wanted for me, for us. Tears slipped down Ilara's cheeks. I wish I could have known her. She knows you. He pressed his forehead to hers. Somewhere, she's watching, and she's proud. They sat together as darkness fell, the bond humming contentedly between them. In the distance, the pack house glowed with warm light. Their home, their family, their future. Ready to go back? Kieran asked eventually. Not yet. Ilara laced her fingers through his. Just a few more minutes. Just us. Whatever you need, he promised. Always. And in that moment, beneath the rising moon, with her mate beside her, and the weight of the Luna's ring on her finger, Ilara understood something important. She didn't have to be perfect. She just had to be present. To show up. To try. To care. The rest would follow. The next morning brought unexpected visitors. Ilara was in the kitchens helping Margaret prepare for a council meeting. She'd insisted on learning practical pack work alongside her official duties, when Devon burst in. Luna, there's someone at the border asking for you specifically. Her heart jumped. Who? She won't give her name. Just says she needs to speak to the Omega who became Luna. Devon's expression was puzzled. She's not from any pack we know. A rogue, maybe. But she's not hostile. Kieran appeared in the doorway, his expression protective. I'll come with you. No. Ilara set down the vegetables she'd been chopping. If she asks for me specifically, she probably has a reason. Let me talk to her alone first. Ilara. I'll be fine. Devon can stay within sight. She touched his arm. Trust me." After a long moment, Kieran nodded. "Be careful." The woman waiting at the border was elderly, maybe 70, with silver hair braided down her back and eyes that had seen too much. She wore traveler's clothes and leaned on a gnarled walking stick. But her scent was Omega, pure and unmistakable. "Luna Alara," the woman said, her voice cracking with emotion. "I never thought I'd live to see the day." "Do I know you?" Alara asked gently. "No, but I knew your grandmother." The woman's eyes filled with tears. "My name is Iris. I was her closest friend before she fled to Blackwood territory, before she had to hide what she was." Alara's world tilted. "What do you mean, hide what she was?" Iris smiled sadly. "Your grandmother was a healer, child, one of the most powerful the Pax had ever seen. But she made the mistake of healing the wrong person. Someone high-ranking who didn't want their weakness exposed. They tried to kill her for it. She ran, changed her name, suppressed her gift so no one would know. She never told me." Alara's voice was barely a whisper. "She was protecting you, didn't want you burdened with her past, didn't want you to inherit her enemies." Iris stepped closer. "But when I heard that an Omega healer became Luna of Blackwood Pack, when I heard your name, I knew. You're her granddaughter, her legacy. Why are you here?" "To warn you." Iris's expression turned grave. "The people who tried to kill your grandmother, they're still out there, still powerful, and if they learn that her granddaughter has manifested the same gift, has become Luna of a major pack," she gripped Alara's arm, "they'll come for you too." Cold dread pooled in Alara's stomach. "Who are they?" "I don't know all the names, but I know one, Alpha Thorn of the Eastern Territories." Iris's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "He's the one who ordered your grandmother's death. And he doesn't forgive. He doesn't forget." Before Alara could respond, Devon called out a warning. 3 wolves burst from the tree line. Rogues, their eyes wild and feral. They moved with unnatural coordination, heading straight for Iris. "No!" Alara threw herself between the elderly woman and the attackers, her own wolf surging forward. The bond exploded with Kieran's alarm as he felt her danger. She heard him roaring her name, heard warriors mobilizing. But it was her Omega healing gift that saved them. When the first rogue lunged, Alara's power flared outward, a blinding silver light that made the attackers stumble back, howling. The light didn't hurt them. Exactly. It healed them. Healed the madness that had driven them rogue, the corruption that had twisted their minds. When the light faded, the 3 wolves collapsed, gasping, their eyes cleared, their feral snarls transformed into confused whimpers. "What?" one of them choked out. "What happened to us?" Kieran reached Alara's side, pulling her behind him, but the threat had passed. The rogues were rogues no more, just confused, frightened wolves who'd somehow been freed from whatever madness had possessed them. "Take them to Elena," Kieran ordered Devon. "Find out what was done to them." Then he turned to Iris. "You, start talking. What the hell is going on?" But Iris was staring at Alara with wonder and fear in her eyes. "You're stronger than your grandmother ever was," she whispered. "Moon Goddess, help us. You're going to change everything." Chapter 9. Shadows of the Past. The interrogation room was tense. Iris sat at the table, flanked by Kieran and Devon, while Alara stood with her arms crossed, her mind racing. The 3 former rogues were with Elena, being examined and questioned about what had happened to them. "Tell us everything," Kieran demanded, "and start with why assassins just attacked the moment you arrived." "They weren't after me," Iris said wearily. "They were after what I represent, the last connection to Alara's grandmother. Alpha Thorn doesn't want anyone alive who remembers what he did." "Who is Alpha Thorn?" Alara asked. "The most powerful alpha in the Eastern Territories. He controls 7 packs, has alliances with dozens more, and rules through fear and manipulation." Iris's hands trembled on the table. 30 years ago, he was injured in a challenge, took a silver blade to the spine, should have left him paralyzed. But your grandmother was visiting his territory, and healed him in secret. Then why would he want her dead? Devon asked. Because she saw his weakness, knew that the great Alpha Thorn had been moments from losing everything. He couldn't allow that knowledge to exist. Iris's voice hardened. So he spread rumors that she was a dark healer, that her gifts came from forbidden magic, turned the other packs against her. Your grandmother barely escaped with her life. Alara's hands clenched. She fled here, to Blackwood territory. Yes, changed her name, suppressed her healing gift, lived quietly in the shadows. She thought she'd be safe. Iris met Alara's eyes. She never told you because she was terrified that if you manifested the gift, Thorn would find out, would come for you the way he came for her. But she's been dead for years, Kieran said. Why would he care now? Because Alara didn't just manifest the gift. She became Luna. She has power, position, protection. She's not some helpless Omega he can disappear. Iris leaned forward, and from what I just witnessed, her healing is stronger than anything her grandmother could do. She healed madness, Kieran. Do you understand what that means? The rogues, Alara whispered. They weren't naturally rogue. Someone made them that way. Exactly. Iris's expression was grim. For decades, there have been rumors about Thorn experimenting on wolves, driving them mad with silver and dark magic, then using them as weapons. Assassins who can't be reasoned with, who feel no pain, who fight until they're killed. Your grandmother suspected it, but could never prove it. And I just undid his work, Alara said slowly, with a burst of healing light. You exposed his secret weapon as curable, made it useless. Iris gripped her walking stick. Alpha Thorn won't ignore that. He'll see you as a threat to everything he's built. Through the bond, Alara felt Kieran's rising fury and fear. His protective instincts flared, demanding he hide her away, keep her safe at any cost. Don't, she said quietly, touching his arm. Don't pull away from me trying to protect me. His jaw clenched. Alara, if what she's saying is true, then we deal with it. Together. She met his eyes. You don't get to shut me out, because things got dangerous. That's not how this works. The tension in his shoulders eased slightly. You're right, I'm sorry. It's just, his hand covered hers. The thought of losing you isn't going to happen. She turned back to Iris. What do we do? How do we stop him? You can't stop him directly. He's too powerful, has too many allies. Iris hesitated. But you can expose him. If you can prove he's been creating rogue weapons, turning wolves mad deliberately, the other packs would turn against him. It violates every law of moon and nature. How do we prove it? Devon asked. The rogues I just healed, Alara said. If they remember what was done to them. They won't. Iris shook her head. The process destroys memories. They'll remember being rogues but not how they became that way. Then we need to catch Thorn in the act, Kieran said. Find where he's conducting these experiments. That's suicide, Devon protested. We'd have to infiltrate Eastern Territory. We'd be slaughtered. Not if we're smart about it? Kieran's mind was already working through strategies. We need intelligence, scouts, information on his operations. I can help with that, Iris offered. I've been tracking Thorn's movements for years. I know some of his locations, his patterns. Why? Alara asked. Why have you been tracking him? Iris's smile was sad. Because your grandmother was my friend, and because every Omega he's experimented on, every wolf he's driven mad, that's on my conscience, for not stopping him sooner. She met Alara's gaze. I'm old, I'm weak, but I can give you what I know, let you finish what your grandmother and I couldn't. Alina's report confirmed Iris's story. The three former rogues remembered nothing before their madness, just fragments of silver and pain, and a dark room that smelled of blood and fear. But their bodies told a different story. There are traces of foreign magic in their systems, Alina said, showing them strange markings under the wolf's skin, runes carved with silver, designed to destabilize their minds. It's dark work, forbidden work. Can you remove them? Alara asked. I can try, but I've never seen anything like this before, Elena looked troubled. Whoever created this knew exactly how to break a wolf's mind. Thorn, Kieran said grimly. He's been perfecting it for decades. If this ancient evil hiding in plain sight makes you angry, subscribe. Because Alara's about to prove that even the most powerful tyrants can fall when the truth comes to light. Comment: what would you do if you discovered your family's enemy had built an empire on their suffering? Over the next week, Iris shared everything she knew: maps of Thorn's territory, names of his inner circle, patterns in his activities. Kieran assembled a small team of his most trusted warriors to gather more intelligence. But as they planned, Alara couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The bond had been different lately. Not weaker, but somehow muted, like Kieran was holding part of himself back. She found him in his study late one night, surrounded by maps and reports. "You're shutting me out," she said quietly, from the doorway. He looked up, guilt flashing across his face. "I'm not?" "Yes, you are. Through the bond. I can feel you putting up walls." She stepped into the room. "Why?" Kieran set down his pen carefully. "Because I'm terrified. And if you feel how terrified I am, you might realize how dangerous this actually is." "I already know it's dangerous." "Do you?" He stood abruptly, crossing to her. "Alara, Thorn has 7 packs under his control. Hundreds of warriors, resources we can't match, and he's willing to use forbidden magic to break wolves' minds, to kill anyone who threatens him. If he decides to come after you, then we deal with it." "How?" His voice rose. "How do we deal with a threat like that? I'm powerful, but I'm not invincible. I can't protect you from everything." "I'm not asking you to." She cupped his face, forcing him to look at her. "I'm asking you to trust me, to let me be part of this, instead of trying to handle it alone." "I can't lose you." The words broke out of him. "I just found you, just got the chance to make this right. I can't, if something happens to you because of your grandmother's past." "It won't." "You don't know that." "No," she agreed. "I don't. But Kieran, living in fear isn't living, and if we're going to face this threat, we face it together. Not with you shouldering everything alone." He pressed his forehead against hers, his breathing ragged. "I'm scared." "Me too." She wrapped her arms around him. "But we're stronger together. That's what the mate bond means, right? We don't have to face anything alone anymore." Slowly she felt the walls in the bond dissolve, felt his fear and love and desperation flood through their connection, but also his trust, his belief in her. "Together," he whispered. "Together," she echoed. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. One of the former rogues, a young male named Finn, began having nightmares. Fragmented memories of his time under Thorn's control. Elena worked with him carefully, using healing techniques to help him recover what had been suppressed. What emerged was horrifying. "There's a facility," Finn said, his voice hollow. "Underground, in the mountains at the edge of Eastern Territory. That's where they take wolves, where they break us." "How many?" Kieran asked. "Dozens. Maybe more. Some are kept in cages until they're needed. Others are experimented on, testing different methods, different rune combinations." Finn's hands shook. The screaming never stopped. Alara's stomach turned. "We have to free them." "It's too dangerous," Devon protested. "We'd need an army to raid a facility like that." "Then we get an army," Alara said firmly. "We reach out to other packs, tell them what's happening. No alpha with any honor would allow this to continue." "Some might not believe us," Kieran said carefully. "Thorn has a reputation, allies who owe him favors." "Then we make them believe." Alara's mind raced. "The rogues I healed, they're proof. We can show other packs what Thorn's been doing. Show them the runes, the madness, the cure, make it impossible to deny." "That would work," Iris said slowly. "But you'd need to present the evidence at a neutral gathering, somewhere all the major alphas would be present." "The Alliance Summit," Elena said. "It's in 3 weeks. Every alpha from the Northern and Eastern Territories will be there." Kieran's eyes lit with understanding. We expose him publicly, in front of his peers, make it impossible for him to retaliate without looking guilty. It's risky, Devon warned. If we're wrong, if the evidence isn't strong enough, we'll look like we're making false accusations. It could destroy our credibility. We're not wrong, Ilara said, with certainty. And I'll testify myself if I have to. Tell them about my grandmother, about the healing gift, about what I witnessed. You'd be painting a target on your back, Kieran said. The target's already there. We're just choosing to face it head-on instead of waiting for him to strike first. She met his eyes. Trust me. After a long moment, Kieran nodded. We do this together, present our evidence at the summit, rally the other packs against him. And then? Devon asked. Then we raid the facility, Kieran said grimly. With or without support from other packs. We can't leave those wolves to suffer. Plans formed quickly after that. Iris provided detailed maps. Finn and the other former rogues agreed to testify. Elena prepared documentation of the runes and their effects. Kieran reached out to sympathetic alphas, carefully gauging who might support them. And through it all, Ilara trained. Devon taught her defensive maneuvers, how to avoid attacks, how to use her smaller size as an advantage. Elena worked with her on controlling her healing gift, learning to direct it precisely instead of just letting it burst out. Your power is reactive right now, Elena explained. It manifests in crisis, but if you can learn to control it, to call it forth deliberately, you'll be unstoppable. Ilara practiced for hours each day, trying to summon the silver healing light. Most attempts resulted in nothing. Occasionally, she managed a faint glow around her hands. But she was improving. Slowly. Kieran watched one of her training sessions, pride evident in his expression. You're getting stronger. Not strong enough. Ilara wiped sweat from her forehead. If we face Thorn's rogues again, I need to be able to heal multiple targets simultaneously. Right now, I can barely manage one. You'll get there. He pulled her into his arms. And even if you don't, even if your gift never gets stronger than it is right now, you're already more than enough. She leaned into his embrace, drawing comfort from his steady presence. Through the bond, she felt his absolute belief in her, his certainty that whatever came next, they'd face it together. I love you, she whispered. I love you more, he replied. 2 weeks before the summit, everything changed. Ilara woke in the middle of the night, the bond screaming with alarm. Not her alarm, Kieran's. She bolted upright to find his side of the bed empty and cold. No answer. She reached through the bond, searching for him, found him at the northern border, felt his shock and horror and rage. Raiders. Devon burst into the room without knocking. At least 50 rogues. They breached the border and they're heading this way. The Alpha's engaged, but he needs backup. Ilara was already moving, throwing on clothes, her wolf surging forward. Get everyone to the safe rooms, especially the children and elderly. Luna, you should be in the safe rooms. Like hell. Her eyes flashed silver. Those rogues are the same kind I healed before, which means I'm the only one who can stop them without killing them. She grabbed his arm. Trust me, Devon. After a heartbeat of hesitation, he nodded. Let's go. They raced through the pack house, warriors mobilizing around them. The sounds of battle grew louder, snarls and screams, and the clash of bodies. Ilara burst into the clearing to find chaos. Rogues everywhere, their eyes wild with madness, their movements uncoordinated but vicious. Blackwood warriors fought desperately to hold them back, but they were outnumbered. And in the center of it all, Kieran fought 3 rogues at once, his alpha form magnificent and terrible. Through the bond, Ilara felt his exhaustion, his pain, his desperate need to protect his pack. She didn't think, just acted. Ilara closed her eyes and reached for that silver light deep inside her, the healing gift her grandmother had hidden, that she'd inherited, that had saved Kieran's life and freed 3 rogues from madness. She thought of everyone she loved, the pack that had finally accepted her, the mate who'd chosen her, the future they were building together. and she let the light explode outward. Silver brilliance flooded the clearing, washing over every rogue like a wave. They stumbled, gasping, as the madness burned away. The dark runes under their skin shattered, dissolving into nothing. 50 rogues collapsed as one, their minds finally free. The clearing went silent, except for gasping breaths and confused whimpers. Alara swayed on her feet, the effort of healing so many at once nearly overwhelming. Strong arms caught her before she could fall. "I've got you," Kieran murmured, holding her against his chest. "I've got you." She looked up at the freed rogues, 50 wolves who'd been weapons moments ago, now just frightened and confused victims. What happened to us?" one of them choked out. "You were used," Alara said, her voice carrying across the clearing. "By Alpha Thorn of the Eastern Territories. He turned you into weapons, then sent you here to kill." Horror and rage swept through the former rogues. "But you're free now," she continued, "and you're going to help us stop him." 50 pairs of eyes met hers. 50 voices spoke as one. "Whatever you need, Luna, we're with you." Kieran's arms tightened around her. Through the bond she felt his overwhelming pride and love. "You just recruited an army," he murmured in her ear. "We're going to need it," she replied. Because this was just the beginning. Alpha Thorn had made his move. Now it was their turn. Chapter 10. The Alpha Who Knelt. The Alliance Summit was held in neutral territory, a massive stone amphitheater built centuries ago for exactly this purpose. Every major Alpha from the Northern and Eastern Territories would be present, along with their Lunas and key advisors. It was the perfect stage for what Alara and Kieran were about to do. "Nervous?" Kieran asked as their convoy approached the summit grounds. "Terrified," Alara admitted. She wore formal Luna attire, a deep blue dress that Margaret had insisted was both traditional and commanding. Her grandmother's pendant hung at her throat, and Kieran's mother's ring gleamed on her finger. Behind them, a separate convoy carried their evidence: Finn and the other former rogues who'd agreed to testify, Alina's medical documentation, Iris with her decades of research, and most importantly, the 50 wolves Alara had freed during the raid, 50 living witnesses to Thorn's crimes. "He's here," Devon reported from the front vehicle. "I can see his banners." Through the bond, Alara felt Kieran's protective instincts flare. His hand found hers, squeezing tight. "Whatever happens in there," he said quietly, "we face it together." "Together," she agreed. The amphitheater was already packed when they arrived. Hundreds of wolves from dozens of packs, all gathered in their designated sections. The air hummed with power and politics. Alphas sizing each other up, Lunas exchanging calculated pleasantries, warriors watching for threats. And in the place of honor, surrounded by his 7 packs worth of supporters, sat Alpha Thorn. He was older than Alara expected, maybe 60, with silver hair and cold gray eyes, but his power was unmistakable. It radiated from him in waves, demanding submission, commanding respect. When his gaze landed on Alara, recognition flashed across his face, then calculation. He knew who she was, knew why she was here. "Luna Alara," a voice called. "How delightful to finally meet you." Thorn approached with deceptive friendliness, his smile not reaching his eyes. Up close, she could see the ruthlessness beneath his polished exterior. "Alpha Thorn," she said evenly. "I've heard remarkable things about you. An Omega Luna. How progressive." His tone made it sound like an insult. "And a healer, they say. Your grandmother would be so proud." The casual mention of her grandmother made Alara's blood run cold. He wasn't even trying to hide that he knew exactly who she was. "You knew my grandmother," she said carefully. "Briefly. A talented woman. Such a tragedy what happened to her." His eyes glittered. "These witch hunts based on rumors and fear. Terrible business." "Is that what you call it?" Alara's voice was ice. "A witch hunt? What else would you call it when someone innocent is forced to flee for their life?" Thorn's smile widened. "But that's ancient history. No need to dwell on the past when we have such an interesting present." I hear you've been healing rogues. Quite the gift. Someone has to fix the damage being done to innocent wolves. Indeed. Though one does wonder where all these rogues are coming from. Such an unusual surge in recent months. His tone was mocking. Perhaps there's a dark healer somewhere creating them. The accusation hung in the air, subtle but unmistakable. Kieran stepped forward, his alpha dominance rising to meet Thorn's. Careful, Thorn. False accusations at the summit carry consequences. As do true ones, Thorn replied smoothly. I suppose we'll see which is which when the proceedings begin. He walked away, leaving a trail of cold dread in his wake. He's going to accuse you, Devon said grimly. Flip the script. Make it look like you're the one creating rogues. Let him try, Alara said, with more confidence than she felt. We have evidence, witnesses, the truth. Truth is malleable when you have enough power, Iris warned. Thorn's been playing this game for decades. He won't go down easily. The summit was called to order by the Council of Elders, 3 ancient wolves, who served as neutral arbitrators for interpact disputes. The head elder, a woman named Grandmother Ash, raised her hand for silence. We gather under moon law to address grievances, forge alliances, and maintain the peace between packs, she intoned. Who brings business before the council? Kieran stood. Blackwood Pack brings charges against Alpha Thorn of the Eastern Territories. Shocked murmurs rippled through the amphitheater. No one had expected such a direct challenge. On what grounds? Grandmother Ash asked. Forbidden magic, creating rogue weapons through dark rituals, experimenting on wolves without consent, violating the most sacred laws of our kind. Kieran's voice rang with authority. We have evidence and witnesses prepared to testify. Serious charges indeed. Grandmother Ash's ancient eyes swept to Thorn. How do you answer? Thorn stood slowly, his expression one of wounded innocence. These charges are absurd. Alpha Blackwood is young, inexperienced, and apparently willing to make wild accusations to cover his own failures. He gestured to his supporters. I have led 7 packs for 40 years with honor and strength. My reputation speaks for itself. Then you won't object to an investigation, Kieran said. I object to being accused based on nothing but the word of a desperate Alpha and his Omega Luna. Thorn's voice turned sharp. In fact, I have concerns of my own. This Luna, who conveniently appears with a rare healing gift, just as rogues begin attacking in unprecedented numbers, who admits to experimenting on these rogues, healing them. How do we know she isn't the one creating them in the first place? Gasps echoed through the amphitheater. That's a lie, Alara said, standing. I've only healed rogues who were already attacking. I've never created them. So you claim, but dark healers are known for their ability to break minds as easily as heal them. Thorn's eyes glittered with malice. Your grandmother was accused of the same dark practices. Perhaps it runs in the family. My grandmother was innocent. You know that because you were the one who drove her away to hide your own weakness. The accusation hung in the air. Every eye turned to Thorn. His expression hardened. Careful, little Omega. Slander carries consequences. It's not slander if it's true. Alara's voice rang clear. 30 years ago, you were injured in a challenge. My grandmother healed you in secret, and then you turned on her because she knew you'd been weak. You spread rumors about dark magic to cover your own shame. You have no proof of these wild accusations. Actually, we do. Kieran signaled, and Iris stepped forward, carrying an ancient leather journal. This belonged to Alara's grandmother. She documented everything, dates, locations, the exact nature of your injury, your thank you before you tried to kill her. Iris opened the journal, reading aloud entries that detailed Thorn's injury, his secret healing, his subsequent persecution of the woman who'd saved him. Murmurs of shock and disgust rippled through the gathered alphas. But Thorn just smiled. A journal written by a woman who fled under accusations of dark magic. Hardly credible evidence. Then, what about this? Elena stepped forward with medical documentation. These are records of the runes used to turn wolves rogue. Dark magic that only someone with deep knowledge of wolf anatomy could create. Knowledge you've had access to for decades. Speculation. And these? Devon brought forward. Finn and the other former rogues. 50 wolves who were under your control. Who remember fragments of the facility where you experimented on them. Who bear the physical scars of your work. Thorn's composure finally cracked. Those rogues are unreliable witnesses. Their minds have been damaged. By you? Finn's voice rang out. I remember now. All of it. The underground facility in the eastern mountains. The silver runes carved into our skin. Your voice telling us we'd be weapons, that we'd serve your purpose whether we wanted to or not. Lies. All of us remember, another former rogue added. You can't silence 50 witnesses. And you can't deny this. Alara stepped forward, her healing gift rising to the surface. Silver light emanated from her hands as she approached one of the newer freed rogues, a wolf who still bore visible rune marks beneath his skin. She placed her hands on his shoulders, and the light intensified. The amphitheater watched in awed silence as the dark runes shattered and dissolved, as clarity returned to the wolf's eyes. I was taken 3 months ago, the wolf said, his voice shaking. From the southern packs, Alpha Thorn's men grabbed me while I was traveling alone. I woke up in a cage. They carved those marks into me, and everything went dark, until now. The evidence was overwhelming, undeniable. Grandmother Ash's expression was grave. Alpha Thorn, these are serious charges with substantial evidence. The council must investigate. The council has no authority over my territory, Thorn snarled, his mask of civility finally dropping completely. I've built an empire, control 7 packs, have alliances that make me untouchable. You think you can bring me down with some testimonies and a healer's parlor tricks? Moon law applies to all of us, another elder said firmly. No alpha is above it. Moon law is enforced by strength. Thorn's power exploded outward, making weaker wolves cower. And I have more strength than any of you. More resources, more warriors. If you try to move against me, I'll burn your territories to ash. Is that a threat? Grandmother Ash's voice was steel. It's a promise. Thorn's eyes swept the amphitheater. Anyone who sides against me will regret it. I've spent 40 years building my power. I won't let some Omega healer and her weak mate destroy it. The insult to Alara was calculated, designed to provoke Kieran into a reckless challenge. But Kieran didn't take the bait. Instead, he did something unexpected. He dropped to one knee before Alara. The amphitheater went dead silent. 5 years ago, Kieran said, his voice carrying to every corner, I rejected the greatest gift the moon goddess ever gave me. I pushed away my true mate, because I thought power and politics mattered more than love. I was wrong. He looked up at Alara, his amber eyes blazing with emotion. I spent 5 years making you invisible, 5 years causing you pain, because I was too proud to admit that you were everything I needed. And when you finally decided to leave, when you were seconds from freedom, you came back. You saved my life. You saved this pack. You've proven yourself 1,000 times over, and I have never once deserved it. Tears streamed down Alara's face. You are the strongest person I know, Kieran continued. Not because of your healing gift. Not because you're Luna, but because you chose mercy when vengeance would have been justified. You chose love when hate would have been easier. You chose to fight for a future instead of running from the past. He took her hand, pressing it to his chest where his heart thundered. Thorn calls me weak for honoring my mate, for choosing love over domination. And you know what? He's right. I am weak with relief that you gave me a second chance. Weak with gratitude that you're here. Weak with so much love for you that it terrifies me. His voice broke. And I would rather be weak with you than strong without you. I would rather kneel before my mate than stand alone, as a tyrant, because true strength isn't power over others. It's having the courage to be vulnerable with the one person who sees all of you and loves you anyway. He pressed his lips to her hand. You are my strength, Alara. My heart. my everything, and I will spend the rest of my life on my knees, thanking the moon goddess that she gave me a mate, brave enough to save me from myself." The amphitheater erupted. Some alphas were shocked, others moved. A few openly wept at the raw display of devotion. And every Luna present looked at their own mates with new understanding, seeing what was possible when an alpha chose vulnerability over dominance. Alara pulled Kieran to his feet, cupping his face in her hands. "You're not weak. You're brave. Braver than anyone here, because you're willing to admit that love matters more than power." She kissed him deep and claiming, and absolutely certain. When they broke apart, she turned to face Thorn. "You built an empire on fear and cruelty," she said. "You call that strength, but real strength is what Kieran just showed. The courage to be honest, to be vulnerable, to choose love even when it's complicated." She stepped toward Thorn, her healing light beginning to glow. "You've spent 40 years running from weakness, hiding it, destroying anyone who witnessed it, but weakness isn't what you think it is. It's not being injured or needing help or admitting you're scared." Her voice rang with conviction. "Weakness is what you've become. A tyrant so terrified of being seen as anything less than perfect that you'd rather break innocent wolves than accept that everyone needs healing sometimes." The light around her hands intensified, spreading to envelop her entire body in silver radiance. "I'm going to give you one chance," Alara said. "Confess your crimes, release any wolves still in your custody, submit to the council's judgment, and I'll heal whatever darkness is eating your soul." Thorn's laugh was ugly. "You think you can heal me? I don't need healing. I need power. And I'm going to—" He lunged at her, claws extended, murder in his eyes. But the silver light exploded outward, catching him mid-attack. He screamed, not in pain, but in overwhelming emotion, as decades of buried guilt and shame and fear came flooding back. Ilara's healing didn't just cure physical ailments, it cured spiritual ones too. It forced you to confront everything you'd been running from. And Thorn had been running for 40 years. He collapsed to his knees, sobbing like a child. "I was weak. I was so weak. And I couldn't let anyone know." "Being weak doesn't make you worthless," Alara said gently. "It makes you wolf. We all have weaknesses. The question is what we do with them." Around them, the amphitheater watched in stunned silence as the most feared alpha in the Eastern Territories broke down completely. "I'm sorry," he choked out. "For your grandmother. For the wolves I hurt. For everything. I was so afraid of being seen as weak that I became a monster." "You did," Alara agreed. "And now you have to face the consequences." Grandmother Ash stepped forward. "Alpha Thorn, by your own confession and the evidence presented, you are found guilty of forbidden magic, creating rogue weapons, and crimes against wolfkind. Your title is stripped. Your packs will be redistributed to alphas who rule with honor. You will be imprisoned for the remainder of your natural life." Warriors moved to restrain Thorn. He didn't fight. All the fight had been burned out of him by Alara's healing light. As they led him away, he looked back at Alara one final time. "Thank you," he whispered. She nodded, understanding. Sometimes the cruelest mercy was forcing someone to see themselves clearly. The aftermath of the summit was chaotic. Thorn's 7 packs needed new leadership. His facility of imprisoned wolves had to be found and freed. Reparations had to be made to the families of those he'd hurt. But through it all, something had shifted in the pack world. Alphas began looking at their mates differently, seeing them not as political tools but as partners. Omegas who'd been invisible started being valued for their gifts. And everywhere, wolves whispered about the Luna, who'd brought down a tyrant, not with violence, but with healing. Alara and Kieran returned to Blackwood territory as heroes. The pack gathered in the Great Hall for a celebration that lasted 3 days. Devon gave embarrassing toasts. Margaret cried happy tears. Elena proclaimed Alara the greatest healer in living memory. And through it all, Kieran never left her side. His hand stayed at her back, his eyes tracked her across every room, His love flooded through the bond with overwhelming intensity. On the fourth night, exhausted and happy, they finally retreated to their rooms. "I can't believe it's over," Alara said, collapsing onto their bed. "It's not over." Kieran joined her, pulling her into his arms. "It's just beginning. We still have a pack to lead, former rogues to integrate, alliances to build, a whole life ahead of us." "That sounds exhausting." "It does." He kissed her forehead. "But we'll do it together." "Together," she agreed. They lay in comfortable silence for a while, listening to each other breathe, feeling the bond pulse contentedly between them. "Kieran," Alara said eventually. "Yeah? Thank you for kneeling, for saying all those things in front of everyone." His arms tightened around her. "I meant every word. You are my strength, Alara. The best decision I ever made was choosing you. Took you long enough." "I know." His laugh was rueful. 5 years too long, but I'm going to spend the rest of our lives making it up to you." "You better." She tilted her head to look at him. "Because if you ever make me feel invisible again—" "I won't." The promise was fierce. "I see you, Alara, every day, every moment. You're impossible to miss." She kissed him, slow and sweet, and full of a future that finally felt secure. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you more." He pulled her closer. "My Luna, my mate, my everything." Outside their window, the moon rose full and bright, the goddess's blessing on a bond that had survived rejection, near death, political machinations, and ancient enemies. A bond that had been tested in every way imaginable, and emerged stronger. A bond that proved love wasn't weakness. It was the most powerful force in the world. And Alara and Kieran had a lifetime to prove it. Epilogue. 6 months later, Alara stood in the rebuilt gardens of Blackwood Estate, watching the sun set over her territory. It still felt surreal. So much had changed. The former rogues had integrated beautifully. Many now served as warriors or scouts, their unique perspectives valuable to pack operations. Thorne's facility had been destroyed, its prisoners freed and healing under Elena's care, and Alara's reputation as a healer had spread across territories, bringing wolves from hundreds of miles away seeking her help. "There you are." Kieran's arms wrapped around her from behind. "I've been looking for you." "Just thinking." She leaned back against his chest. "About how different everything is now." "Better or worse?" "Better. Definitely better." She turned in his arms. "Though I still can't believe you knelt in front of the entire Alliance summit." "Best moment of my life." His grin was unrepentant. "Well, second best. The best was when you agreed to give me a second chance." "Third best," she corrected. "First best was when I saved your ungrateful ass from silver poisoning." "Fair point." He kissed her nose. "My heroic mate, what would I do without you?" "Probably make terrible political decisions and die in another rogue attack." "Accurate." His expression turned serious. "Alara, I need to tell you something." Her heart jumped. "What?" "The Luna's Council wants you to speak at their gathering next month. About healing, about Omega rights, about everything you've accomplished." His eyes shone with pride. "They want you to help rewrite pack law, make it more inclusive, more focused on actual strength, instead of just dominance." Alara's breath caught. That's huge. You were huge. You changed everything, love. Not just for us, but for Omegas everywhere, for Lunas who want to be more than decorative, for wolves who don't fit the traditional power structure." He cupped her face. "You're going to change the world." "We're going to change the world," she corrected. "Together." "Together," he agreed. In the distance, the pack gathered for evening meal, their voices rising in laughter and argument, and the comfortable chaos of family. Alara's family, her pack, her home. She'd gone from invisible Omega to Luna, from rejected mate to beloved partner, from broken to whole. And it had all started with 5 years of pain and 1 moment of choice. The choice to save the man who'd hurt her, to give him a second chance he didn't deserve, To believe that love was worth the risk. No regrets? Kieran asked, reading her expression. Alara looked at him. Really looked at him. At the mate who'd spent 5 years pushing her away before finally learning to pull her close. At the alpha who'd chosen vulnerability over power. At the man who loved her so completely, it still took her breath away. Not one, she said. And she meant it. Because sometimes the best love stories aren't the ones that start perfectly. They're the ones that start broken and become beautiful through the courage to try again. Through the strength to choose love, even when it's hard. Through the wisdom to know that being seen is worth more than being safe. Alara had been invisible for 5 years. But she would never be invisible again. Thank you for following Alara and Kieran's journey from rejection to redemption, from invisible to indispensable, from broken to beautifully whole. This is a story about second chances, the courage to be vulnerable, and the truth that real strength isn't power over others. It's having the bravery to love completely despite the risk.